Hi, and welcome to this week's Three Legs, Four Wheels F1 podcast. It's Paul here with...
Sean.
Chris.
Lee.
But where is Dan?
Well, we're just discussing this.
Before we started recording, so we probably need to carry on the discussion.
Well, I don't think he's in where he's supposed to have been anyway.
You think he's photoshopping himself into his own holiday photos?
No, I think they're real holiday photos. I don't think he's where he's saying he is. He's finding other people's holiday photos and being like, look at this lovely place. Ooh, it's really warm.
It depends who's paying him. Julian Assange is either very, very safe or very, very, very in danger, depending on who's paying Dan.
We'll find out who's in danger on this week's news.
All we know is he doesn't need a suit because he's left his suit with us. Because when he returns from his mission, we're going to a wedding, and he has asked me and Paul to bring his suit.
And see, now your accessories.
Apparently so, yeah. Have we looked in it? Do we know it's a suit and it's not like a bomb?
All
body bag.
I know is he gave me a suit hanger and said, hang on to this and bring it to Winchester.
I like the idea that you're going to have to take it to the wedding, and then Dan's going to meet you at the wedding. You'll just leave it in the toilet so he can sneak into the toilet, put a suit on in the toilet, and then pretend he was at the wedding
The whole
all
time.
It's very
Yeah.
James Bondy, isn't
It is,
it?
isn't
Well,
it?
the thing is, he's not actually... Him and Mrs. Dan aren't going to be at the wedding. They're only coming to the evening do because they get back middle of the afternoon from wherever they are. Just imagine I did the air quotes there. So I have to leave the suit at a suitable drop-off location for Secret Agent Dan to collect and then to turn up at the event.
And this is a wedding that's taking place very close to the area where Russians keep poisoning people.
Let's not talk about that.
And it's also superhero themed.
Yes.
This is worse.
The wedding's superhero themed.
Yeah.
Yes.
Fuck off, you quirky cunts.
Let's talk Formula One.
Tell you, yeah, we'll do that instead. Yeah, as you've noticed, Sean is here for the next couple of weeks.
Yes, hi.
So not only is she writing stuff, she's saying it as well.
Apparently so.
Just like to point out, Sean's written an article about Daniel Ricciardo, which we'll talk about later,
Yes.
out online before the BBC's.
Yeah. I got back from Tesco in the nick of time.
And it was a lot better than the one that I did because the story was
Yours
breaking
was fine.
Yeah, but the story was breaking while I was writing it, so I had to rewrite it about 6 or 7 times in the course of 10 minutes. But we will come to that because we are actually going to do Breaking Tuesday news. Happy Tuesday, everybody.
Yeah, we're a day late this week.
We're a day late. Thank you, Iron Maiden. You were incredible last night. And news happened. Force India have been saved.
They've been saved, they've been sold, they have new owners, Vijay Mallya.
Well, they don't have the new owners yet.
No, but Vijay Mallya and the Sahara Group are relinquishing their rights to ownership. And
They
it's-
relinquished those technically when the company went into administration, and now the administrators have agreed to the sale of the team and the business to a consortium led by Lawrence Stroll.
with many other people in this consortium.
It's basically all his rich Canadian friends.
Business friends.
Business friends.
Team Poutine.
Oh, wow.
Very good.
Chips, cheese and gravy on
Yeah,
a
which
Formula
is
One
going to be
car.
the closest we'll get to Team Chips, Cheese and Gravy on the F1 grid next year.
But I found it interesting not to get too involved with like the financial side of things because it's the sport that we love, but
Yeah.
the all of the creditors have already been paid.
Well, somebody comes in with an absolute boatload of cash. And when we're talking boatload, we mean Gin Palace.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if that's an administrator's payoff where you accept like 30 pence in the pound or whatever, but that's everyone has been paid,
And it will be at a rate that all of the creditors have agreed to. Because
which is probably 100%. knowing
If
Lawrence
to keep a
Stroll.
company going, it would probably be 100%.
Yeah.
I think under British law it's 80. I'm trying to get the words right here because obviously it's British financial law and it's complicated as fuck. It's the creditors who hold the value of 75.1% of all outstanding debts if they agree to the terms, which will be X percent, and that percent can be variable, but they agree to taking the final settlement of a certain percentage of the debt that they've got, and the team can come out of administration and officially be sold to new owners.
Which is what's happening.
Which is basically
to
what's
Lawrence
happened.
Stroll.
This is where it's like to be trapped inside the Financial Times.
Yes, it is.
Do you want to know what's what? I used to work for a stockbrokers, and this is the kind of... That's what passed for office banter in my office at the time.
Oh no!
No,
It's
when
the
you
worst.
worked in the stockbrokers, people used to cling film everyone's chairs.
That's also bad.
Yeah, that was the non-financial types office banter. But what would pass for a joking conversation would always have the word percentage in it. And somebody would say something about percentage, and then you'd hear somebody else in that same little office laughing. I'm like, they weren't even words, let alone funny ones. This was around about the same time that I wanted to spoon my own ears out.
I can see why.
My joke in that office situation would constantly be when someone tried to speak to me, you have a 95% chance of not making it through this conversation.
Well, I was in the IT department. I could just sit there and be weird and say, "Have you tried turning it off and on again?" The longer I worked, the longer I worked there, the more I became like Roy from the IT crowd. I was even starting to pick up the Dublin accent at one point. It was getting that bad. Still not got over the thing of wearing green jackets all the time.
But yes,
Needs to
what
stop.
are Force India going to be
Yeah.
called next year?
No idea. But
Force Canada?
to do what? Hashtag Canada 2, you can't do that.
I don't know, but they'll probably acquiesce very politely.
Hashtag my country as well.
Well, we don't know what it's going to be called next year. Anything would be fucking purely proper guesswork.
Yeah.
Not even educated guesswork.
No.
Even we don't do that,
No.
do we?
I think the more
Yeah, we do.
the more interesting thing here would be, does Perez's what appears to be massive favour to the team, where by helping them go into administration, does that guarantee his seat next year? And if Lawrence Stroll has already bought the team, I'd imagine that all the cards are in his hands and Stroll's hands as far as what goes on around that team and what Stroll does in Williams.
Well,
Do we see him in Spa in a Force India?
It's possible.
Otmar Schnafneuer has actually said that he doesn't know if him and Bob Fernley are going to stay in the jobs at the as things stand, because it's going to be down to the new ownership as to who does what. Obviously,
I feel
obviously,
moving-
Schnafneuer says that he hopes that they keep the senior management.
Yeah. I feel fucking that team around
Would hurt.
when they've just fucking like kept that thing on the track. Like God knows how. I think that would be incredibly harsh and incredibly short-sighted.
It would be, yeah. I
It
mean,
would,
you
it,
gotta
would be
look-
like, it would be like doing an unboxing video and then following it up quickly with it. And this is how it goes in a blender.
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, it would be
Ooh, chocolate
You got-
hot knobs in a blender.
Canadian money coming in from the consortium, and you got Mexican money coming in from Perez's sponsors. The Americans aren't going to be the biggest fans of this, are they? You know, the
Wouldn't have thought so.
Team Pincer movement.
Yeah, but they've got Haas.
Exactly. Yeah,
Yeah, they've got their team.
Yeah.
I'll be more interested to see what their operating budget's going to be because just because the team's
It's got to be a financial restructuring, hasn't it? Really?
yeah, just because the team's been bought and saved. Sauber was bought and saved as well,
yeah, of course. Yeah.
and that
It didn't
stayed
last, did
where
it?
it was.
Yeah.
And then it needed a massive
Yeah.
money and technical injection from Ferrari to get to where it's got to now.
Yeah.
So you've got to wonder how much the new ownership are going to be asking Mercedes for help.
I think. Well, I don't know that the new ownership would be asking Mercedes for help. I think they'd be quite keen to.
Well,
just-
technical partnership, not financial help necessarily.
I think that what's gonna. I think the most interesting part about this Force India takeover from the Stroll consortium is that it's essentially I would say the second nail in Williams's coffin.
See, I don't think it is.
I think it can go either way.
Because I think if Mercedes haven't essentially bought into the team to save it, then I don't think if Mercedes are going to give a technical partnership to another team, I don't think it's going to be Force India.
You think Williams?
Yeah, because there was the prime opportunity there for them to make their own Toro Rosso if they wanted to, for very cheap, and not only very cheap, the factories in is that in Brackley as well?
It's within throwing distance of
Yeah.
where Mercedes is. Yeah.
So they're neighbours, very, very near.
It's Grove.
Sorry, Grove. Yeah. Then they're
Oh,
not.
no, sorry, I thought you meant Force India. So I say Force India and Mercedes are pretty much right next to each
No,
other.
Force India's in Silverstone. It's the old Jordan factory.
Yeah, but it's not that far from
Yeah.
Brackley.
They're
It's-
all,
it's
they're
not
all
a lot-
much of a
yeah.
much, aren't
Yeah.
they? They're all within about an hour of each
Yeah.
other.
It's McLaren that are the weird ones. They're right out the other side of London.
Yeah. So you've got like I say, they have the perfect chance to make their own Toro Rosso team there. They haven't, and now you've got the rumours saying that they're going to sort something out so George Russell can go to Williams. I think the fact that Mercedes don't seem to be going to back Force India is what might save Williams.
Mercedes,
Sorry,
Mercedes
go on.
are also meant to be talking about a gearbox deal with Williams, which would then mean they're giving them the power unit and the gearbox and a potential driver. Williams would very much then be a junior Mercedes team.
Yeah, I mean, they couldn't have. We know that Martini are disappearing at the end of this year
Yeah.
off from the Williams, so they would need a title sponsor. Mr. Stroll appears to be taking his money, his son, and his ball to go and play somewhere else.
Over the road.
Yeah,
That would probably leave SMP Racing as Williams' biggest financial sponsor. Now, they're the ones that back Sirotkin. Because there are SMP logos on the car, and it's SMP that are paying... Williams are saying they're not paying for Sirotkin's seat. They have given Sirotkin a drive, and SMP are providing a financial consideration that they are including in their technical budget.
sounds like a lot of words.
SMP Racing, of course, have their finger in many pies in many series because you'll see their name on... I've seen it on a couple of Indy cars.
A Formula E team have got SMP logo on it.
Yeah.
Is it Jaguar?
Could well be. They're in a...
LMP1, the
was gonna
team
say
that
they're in a-
Jenson Button drives for.
Yeah, they have the LMP1 team, and anywhere that Michaela Leshin turns up on a weekly basis,
Well,
because
he's the teammate of Jenson Button, isn't he?
yeah, and he's in a couple of other things as well, because he just keeps. I think he turned up in NASCAR at one point. So SMP are well known in the racing world for having the money to. I mean, obviously, an LMP1 team, it's not a cheap prospect.
No, but I mean it's a leap and a bit more to go into owning a Formula One team.
I wouldn't. Well, I'm not saying that SMP will be buying Williams, but I think that it might be Williams SMP Racing because they might be the title sponsor.
I don't think Stroll will be there next year.
Stroll won't be there. Sirotkin.
Sorry, I don't think Sirotkin will be there next year.
It depends how much money SMP Racing put into
It depends
put
how
into the
much
team.
money Mercedes are willing to put into
I
the
think if we
team.
go down the road of what Lee's saying, you're probably looking at Esteban Ocon and George Russell. in that
I
car.
think you'll have George Russell in the car, and they'll get rid of Sirotkin. The car will hopefully be more competitive next year because if they don't have to worry about the gearbox, which is going to be a Mercedes gearbox, they're going to have a Mercedes engine and whatever else bits they can get. If it is
Well,
going to be
the
a technical
problem's been
partnership.
aerodynamical, hasn't it?
Yeah,
This-
and
should-
the aero rules are changing so that they might, and they've obviously got the jump on
Exactly.
how the 2019 aero is going to run because they ran the 2019 wing in parts of the test.
It's not like where Paddy Lowe doesn't understand the Mercedes bits that are going to be on the car.
yeah.
I think for a bit of publicity and whatever sponsorship it comes with, you'll have Kubica in the car next year for a race.
Or a seat.
Oh, sorry, a
Yeah.
season as a
Yeah.
race seat. I meant.
Yeah.
I missed
Oh,
the
you mean
word
seat, race seat? It's not beyond the realms of possibility. I just think in saving one Formula One team, Lawrence Stroll has dealt Williams a really difficult hand to play for the rest of this year, and it may be that they're thinking of a technical partnership with Mercedes, but. And in so many ways, it makes more sense for Williams and Mercedes to tie up with each other because Toto Wolff used to be a shareholder at Williams, used to be a director there, had to sell his shares in Williams when he became the head of motorsport at Mercedes.
Yeah.
Obviously, the Susie Wolff connection as well, going through it. Paddy Lowe took not just himself, but a few of Mercedes junior staff along to Williams as well. So it's an outfit that has always had, well, not always, but since Mercedes returned to Formula One, quite strong.
Well, let's not forget what Toto's
ties.
old job used to be.
He was Williams' head
Yeah.
of. Was it technical director? Williams?
Sporting director.
Sporting director
Yeah.
at Williams.
I just think there's too many things in Williams that make sense for Mercedes not to do it.
Yeah.
You know, it seems to be the way forward. And as far as they're gonna lose a load of cash from Stroll. Now, it wouldn't have mattered this year because
But don't forget, the Stroll deal was structured in a way that all the money coming in was more loaded to the first 2 seasons than it would have been to the 2019 season.
yeah.
So it's a smaller hit that they're taking.
How much was it?
30 million.
Right. This is the big question then. When you look at because they didn't have
It averaged out at 30 million a season, but it was
Was it 45?
45, 30, and 15. But
they-
it's only 15 that they're going to be down next
they
season.
didn't have a bad car last year.
No.
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 And Massa did reasonably well. He got some good results in it. If you had, let's just say, I don't know who else Williams would have had in, but let's say they had have got Jenson Button in instead, you know, because they were after him. You've got to think that Jenson Button would have done equally as well, if not better than Massa, and scored more points. Yeah.
No signs of bias there whatsoever.
So
I can see the point, yeah.
yeah. So if you then, depending on where that landed them in the championship, would that have made them 30 million? I think there's a good chance Stroll has cost them more money
It's a good
than's come into the team.
It's a good counter argument. The hemorrhaging points with an inexperienced driver lineup, as well as Stroll and Sorokin. You know, I'm not saying
I still
that either
think-
of them are terrible drivers. I'm
No.
not saying that.
We really can't tell how good or not Sorokin is in Formula One.
No.
The only
Just,
thing
just because of the car.
but the only thing we judge is the fact that Stroll does appear to be the better of the two drivers, and Stroll hasn't set the world alight.
No. This is
So-
true.
True.
Yeah. Fuck, I forgot what I was going to say.
But we were talking about Force India and whether or not
Yeah.
we'll see Stroll in a Force India before the end of the season.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's going to be as you are with Williams in Force India till the end of the
Presumably,
season.
he is already paid up with Williams for the rest of this year. So if
Well,
he's
he'll
paying
be paid
for
up for
it, he
next
might
year as well, but he
Yeah.
won't be there.
I mean, the difference is he's going to get a slightly better car because it's
Yeah.
not like Force India and they're not in the same position they were in last year.
No.
No, the problem that Force India have got at the moment is they can't do the upgrades on the car, which are all planned and designed, until the takeover's fully done in a few weeks' time. Because at the moment, Force India doesn't have any money. Because what Lawrence Stroll and the consortium have had to do... Sorry about this, I'm choking here.
That's all right.
What Lawrence Stroll and the consortium have had to do is the money's gone to the administrators who then distributes it. And anything left goes to the team. Now, if the initial payment is just to clear the debts, the team is still going to have zero extra working capital to do anything with. And until the team is fully purchased and the paperwork's signed, they've actually said they can't pay the manufacturers to make the new parts for the car because they don't do carbon fibre in-house.
No.
They're one of the teams that doesn't. So they can't get the new upgrades onto the car until all the legal stuff's out of the way. So at the moment, the Force India is going to be as good as it is now. So
But that could be if they've got the parts that ready, designed to be made and built and go on the car. That's the sort of thing that now it's took over could be sorted out within a couple of races, surely.
once it's done, yes. But if, for example, it takes... Because these business transactions aren't quick.
No.
Because lawyers get involved and lawyers bill by the hour. If there are any lawyers listening to this, we'll send you a bill for you listening to us.
Yeah.
And we'll make it a long show tonight and bill you double.
No, we won't.
Sign up on Patreon. So once that's sorted out, let's say 6 weeks.
Yeah.
The administrator has said 2 to 3 weeks.
Right.
So hopefully this could be sorted before
It should,
the
it
summer
should
break.
be Team Stroll by Belgium.
Right.
So then you're probably looking at... God.
Well,
We're all suffering tonight. Then you're probably looking at the end of September for the new upgrades to be designed, tested in-house, and then put on a car and run in an FP1.
Yeah.
because of course Belgium and Italy are back to back, so there isn't a great deal of time to, if the money
And then
comes
it's
in just
flyaway
before
races.
Belgium. So yeah, that then gives them a couple of weeks to get to the wind tunnel and figure out exactly what they're going to do.
The only change we're going to see in that team between now and Belgium is that they will not go into the Belgian Grand Prix as Sahara Force India. They're likely to go in as
Just Force India.
BWT Force India, I think.
Yeah.
That's if all the teams agree to the name change.
No, that
That's
doesn't
just a
that doesn't matter.
sponsorship.
That doesn't
That's
matter.
type
yeah.
of sponsor.
Yeah, that's
Right.
just a sponsorship name change.
They will not change the name Force India until the end of the season. It doesn't matter if the teams agree or not. It's in the sporting regulations.
Yeah.
The main name of the team stays what it is until the end of the season, regardless of ownership.
Well, there's no point anyway, because even if they change the name of the team, you're going to change the name of the team and then run the same livery for the rest
That's
of
the
the
thing.
year.
You don't
It's
want to be
gonna- it's
dicking
gonna be
about with
weird.
that and putting
How
all
long?
your
How long
signs
did
on
it?
things.
How long did it take them last year to get the new pink team
It
gear
was
for
the middle
everybody?
Yeah.
the middle of the European season by the time they got everything through.
Yeah.
Because the BWT deal was that quick, and everybody else was still wearing the Indian flag colour.
Yeah, the
coloured
orange
gear
and green.
apart from the drivers.
Yeah.
Even the bubbles were DLC, weren't they?
Which was a patch that they clearly lost for 2018 because now it just looks like a milkshake.
As it turns out, they were an upgrade.
Yeah, they were.
But it's brought the Canadian boys to the yard.
And Stroll's like, it's my money or yours.
Before we move on, just quickly, because I remembered what I was going to say about Williams before.
Yeah.
I don't think it's any surprise that Williams have got such a bad car this year when they had a arguably poor driver with 1 year's experience that doesn't know why his tires are cold and crashes.
Yeah.
You had
When it turns out they're overheating.
another driver which doesn't appear to be very good, and a one-armed driver which hasn't driven a car in a race for 7 years.
Yeah, and your young drivers older
Yeah.
than your race drivers.
Lo and behold, they've got aero problems that
Yeah.
they haven't managed to sort out in testing.
Yeah.
So
Did you see? I know we're going to talk about
He's just
testing
punching
a
his
little bit
microphone
later,
there.
but did you see how much paint they had on that car?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Budapest, trying to
Oh,
figure
yeah.
out what the
I
fuck's
can't.
going
I think
on
it
with
was Missed Apex that retweeted that, was saying paint the bits that don't work.
That's amazing. Paint the bits that don't work. Yeah, was Lance Stroll painted?
It was Roland, I think. Was it
Ollie
Roland?
Roland's in
Roland,
the car.
was it?
It was Roland and Kubica. I think the paint
Yeah.
day was
Yeah,
Roland.
he was in the car. We went through this last week with the test. But yeah, we'll talk about the
even
testing
Roland could
lineup
find
later.
his way. Could find his way into that seat. Roland and Russell.
It could be.
Depends
could
what
be.
money he's
Yeah.
got, really.
I
doesn't
think.
it?
I mean, well, we'll go through what I think a bit later on because we got a bit of a silly season chat to talk about later. But there's not much more to say about Force India, is there? Other than
At the moment, because it's all happened in the last couple of hours before we started recording. This is exciting.
yeah, but it's the
I've got
team.
Semi.
The team that was Spiker, the team that was Midland, the team that was Jordan will soon be the team that was Force India because, let's be honest, this time next year we'll be sat here and being like, do you remember when they were
It'll
Force
be a
India?
purple car with an unpronounceable symbol. We'll have to refer to him next
The
season
artist
as the artist
formerly
formerly known as.
Taff Caffey,
Any relation to Alex Caffey?
maybe.
Moving on, complicated situation at McLaren.
Yep, many different conflicting reports coming out today. We don't want to say too much about what may or may not have happened, but some people reporting that Mansour Ojay, the money man behind McLaren, resigned today.
No, resigned on the 26th of July.
On the
The
26th of
documents
July,
have come
right.
to light today.
But what it appears to be is that Mansour Ojay has resigned as his directorship as a part of McLaren Racing.
McLaren Racing, yeah.
And is instead...
And McLaren Applied Technologies and McLaren's marketing division, because he was on the board of all three.
So he's now taken up a place on the board of McLaren Group, which is the umbrella company which oversees that, as well as the food company and something else.
There's a McLaren food company.
McLaren Catering.
Oh, they've got fingers
yes.
in all the pies, haven't they?
McLaren Catering.
Literally for
Literally.
McLaren catering. Oh, come on, you saw the quality of the McLaren catering when we were...
It did look pretty good.
Yeah, yeah. That was I think one of the last of the Ronisms was to create a catering company that was able to fully provide in-house meals for everyone that were nutritionally and calorifically perfect.
Imagine the quality of their kitchen appliances.
It's going to be
That's going to
ridiculous.
be some amazing shit,
But
isn't it?
you get, about a few years' time, you're going to be able to go into a shop and buy McLaren knives.
Heston Blumenthal would walk into their kitchen and go, "How do these work?"
Do you know the plan was put up, wasn't it? That all that like field area around the McLaren Technology Centre at one point was supposed to be houses for the guests / workers.
Yeah.
So nobody would be paid but you just live for McLaren.
In a similar way to what Leyton Orient Football Club do with their managers, because every time they hire a new manager, they own an apartment block that's part of the stadium, and they make the manager live at the ground.
This is why they've had 11 in
Like
3
the Pope?
years.
Yes.
They don't
When the
hire
white
managers,
smoke
they
comes out of the
capture
flat.
them.
Yeah, they capture them.
They keep them prisoner.
Yeah.
Wow.
But yeah,
Right.
it would
Sneezing now.
appear that Mansur OJ is now going to have less involvement with the actual race team.
Which I think is fine, because if you look at the restructuring they've done since Eric Boulier's gone, Andreas Staeler has been given a more of a forward role, and as has Gilles de Ferran. He's been brought in as well, hasn't he?
He is now head of sport.
Yeah, for McLaren. So there's no real need for Mansur OJ to be around McLaren on a race weekend. Of course, they appreciate his input into the business, but as a bit of a thank you, they've given him slightly higher power, if anything, by giving him directorship of the umbrella group rather than just the racing team and also
This is the thing that's
as
happened
a-
before, because don't forget, Jonathan Neal, it is Jonathan Neal, isn't it?
McLaren. Yeah, he's
he used to go to lots of races as well, and he does a very similar type of job, doesn't he?
He
just
got a
on the
new
business
role,
side.
didn't he, after
Yeah.
Boulier went
Yeah,
and they
so-
rebranded everyone.
Yeah, it's fine. I mean, all that gives as well is Zach Brown gets more power over the team. He's basically got no one else to report to now, has he? As
He just reports directly to the board as chief executive.
oh, you're right, Paul.
I should apologise, I have brought mucus into the
Oh, dear.
stream.
Somebody has had a nasty cough for the last few days, and now
And I've
somebody else has
shared it.
got it.
Very suddenly.
No, this has been brewing
brewing
for the last couple of days. It's just got worse since I hit record. I will apologise. For coughing tonight. I'm not a well man. Oh God, I sounded like my mother then. I'm not going to do that again.
Your mum said, "I'm not a well man."
No, my mum says I'm not a well
right,
man
okay.
in that tone of voice. No, Zach Brown as chief executive is on the board and reports directly to the board of the holding company.
Yeah, which is the McLaren Group. So essentially, he reports to the board of directors where Mansur OJ is going to be now.
Yeah.
Which to me, it's not a resignation. He's not leaving. He's not taking the Bahraini royal money anywhere else other than to the higher group of McLaren.
Yeah, it's just really, sort of reading into it, it's just, again, business and financial law. With McLaren being a publicly traded company, they have to announce all directors' resignations in a publicly accessible way through the stock market and the documents. So, but again, it's all part of the restructuring at McLaren, and I think they're trying to get themselves into a stronger business position for next year. And it's another step of the de-Ronification.
Yeah, sounds like it, doesn't it?
I mean, Zach Brown said it would take anywhere between 2 to 10 years to sort everything out, and I think when he said everything, it didn't just mean the racing side; it meant the whole company structure.
But Ron's has been gone for a little bit now.
Ron's been gone for 18 months,
Yeah.
but how deeply entrenched were Ron's methods in the company? And I don't just mean his way of doing things at the factory and building the cars. I mean things like filling in the paperwork to order the right size of paper clips.
But can we not accept the fact that, like, the Ronism of McLaren is what brought McLaren all the success it's ever had? I'm not saying Ron was the right guy to run the team when he was pushed out.
Friends, Romans, countrymen, I come here to bury Ron, not to praise him.
But there's a reason that every team on the grid, from Red Bull to Mercedes, run their teams like McLaren used to run their teams.
Yeah, because it was the blueprint of how you're supposed to run a Formula One
Ferrari has
team.
became more McLarenized.
Yeah, but
in the way they did things.
Well, I don't know. I think what happened was Ron took the Ferrari idea of what Enzo says happens and moulded it to his own style of things, which wasn't quite as shouty, but more intimidating.
I disagree. I think if anything, Ron looked at Ferrari and said, "No, they're doing it wrong," and literally built the opposite team to Ferrari.
Yeah, don't forget the data-driven approach, which McLaren are famous for.
Yeah.
McLaren started with telemetry.
Yeah.
In the 80s, information on the car feeding back to the pit wall. It was done every 10th of a second, which back then was like, wow, this is fast.
This is crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, now it's like every
real time.
Yeah, now it's real. It's basically every. I think it's every 100,000th of a second.
Yeah.
I think they're getting something back. So yeah,
Well,
it's,
it used to be when the McLaren telemetry started, they'd record every 10th of a second. It just dumped it all once a lap.
when it came round.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that was something that they worked on with Honda. It was a brave decision to go back to Honda. It was I get the feeling it was Ron's decision, and when it went wrong, he took the blame from a lot of the floor. You know, the
Yeah.
guys on the floor, the people who do the hard work, the people who get there at like 8 a.m., pick up the spanners, and they're working hard. They looked at him as
Which are now known as the Freddo Brigade.
yeah, they looked. They are. They looked at him when things started going south and were just like, Ron, what have you done to us? And I think that's why Ron had to go, because he lost the trust of the faithful floor workers who would have done anything for him in the years before.
Yeah, you're probably right. I mean, how old is he? Like,
Ron, 70, something like that.
70 odd.
I would say about that.
Yeah, it was time for Ron to go, but I think the problem is, I don't think he should have been took out the back and shot. I think he should have had a
thought he
green
retired.
successor. No. He's running around with the other drivers at Red Bull, but but he should have had a successor in place, and maybe he did have a successor in place that wasn't even Whitmarsh. Maybe there was someone there that he had that he.
Well, it was going to be Whitmarsh, but Whitmarsh went in 2013 and he came back.
Looking at the age of his girlfriend, grooming is the right word, but the. But yeah,
He does like to look after himself.
yeah. Anyone that's going out with somebody that's near that age will go into theirs like its whole number multiple times. But yeah, I just think there's something wrong with McLaren, and the idea was get rid of Ron, have Eric Boulier and Zach Brown come in to sort stuff out. This'll fix McLaren. Hasn't fixed McLaren.
No.
So I don't understand why this is fixing McLaren.
I think the problem is that they've been kind of overcomplicated for the last couple of seasons. They've had Boulier and Brown and
Mansour OJ.
Yeah.
Mansour OJ. They've had so many different people. No one has really known who's in charge and who's to blame when stuff goes wrong. So they've got rid of Boulier.
What is it called? Matrix management.
Yeah, it's no one really knows who's responsible for what, and I think what they're trying to do now is get to a point where they know if something's wrong with the car, it's on Zach Brown.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's not much of a story really. You know, we managed to
No.
stretch.
Yeah,
that
we
out.
don't entirely know what the story is,
No.
do we? Because
No.
everyone's
We've
got a slightly
spoken
different
about McLaren
version.
for too long when
Yeah.
really there's not an awful lot to talk about.
The only thing I want to know
Fuck
is
me, we never do
But
that.
the only thing I want to know is, which we don't know, which I think is the only interesting thing is your man? When's your man from Toro Rosso going in,
James Key.
and what is the deal with Toro Rosso and McLaren to make that happen? And
What?
does it involve
This could
Lando
be part
Norris
of it.
becoming?
Too many
Toro
cooks.
Rosso driver.
Could be a too many cooks thing, you know. Where we don't need Mansour here.
Yeah.
You know, James is coming in. We don't need too many people looking at somebody.
Mm-hmm.
You know, too many bosses hanging around.
And we do know it takes a lot to make a stew.
He's the aero guy, isn't he? He's the aero lead designer.
Chief engineer.
Chief
isn't he?
engineer,
engineer.
yeah, but designed the Toro Rosso for the last couple of years, I believe, or
Right.
signed off on the design
Yeah.
of the Toro Rosso. And it's seen as a kind of replacement for Adrian Newey when Adrian Newey decides to finally stop drawing things. But he may
Puts Red Bull in an interesting position.
Yeah,
when-
it does. This is why there's
Yeah.
such a wrangle over him, I think, because James Key has made his decision and wants to go. And Toro Rosso, the Red Bull Corporation, are trying desperately to hang on to him. I know contracts.
It's I mean, I've never known a silly season include designers
Technical
before.
staff.
No,
Yeah.
you're quite right. Yeah.
You know, this silly season is happening up and down the grid and up and down the paddock as well.
Yeah.
So we might as well kick off the whole silly season thing. And the best place to start is the one that's already happened.
Yeah.
That would make sense. We
Yep.
know what's gone down.
So Fernando.
No.
So yeah, Danny Rick's shock move to Renault last week.
it was a shock as well.
Yeah.
Literally, no one knew it was coming until about an hour before.
I could have looked
I
dead.
think,
It was crazy.
and and I might be wrong. I mean, it's pointless listening back because there are literally dozens of podcasts you can listen to. I think Lee said that Daniel Ricciardo would go to Renault about 6 or 8 weeks ago.
Yeah, I think so.
He must have been listening.
Well, yeah, he must
We
have.
actually had a couple of listeners that predicted it as well, and I thought they were being bloody stupid at the time.
Well, the thing is, I think you could tell. Well, maybe you could tell now. I'm not sure. It looked like he
Hindsight-
wanted to go.
Hindsight is always
Yeah.
2020.
I think he'd made his mind up to leave Red Bull, and the talks of re-signing with Red Bull was him posturing with other teams, i.e. McLaren and Renault, it would appear.
Yeah, yeah.
And funny, I could look really, really, really clever because he put a post out, a tweet out,
Go on then, put your glasses back on.
saying the deal with Red Bull should be done by the end of the week. This was last week. He posted that up.
He said it should be done by Belgium, didn't he?
No, there was another one. I'm sure of it. I'm sure he said within the next week.
Before Hungary, it was going to be done before the summer break, and then at Hungary, it was going to be done by the end of the summer break.
Well, at Austria, it was definitely done at Austria, wasn't it?
Oh,
And
yeah.
then
But the
nothing
funny thing
came out.
was, when I read that, I looked at that and thought, that tweet's weird. That's a weird tweet, and I don't think it's aimed at Red Bull. That's aimed at somebody else.
And then there was your theory on the World Tour stories, the videos that...
Yes, they were very strange.
Yeah. Him driving the RB14 various places and...
Like America.
Yeah. And
I
you
thought, oh, this is going to be some kind of long play announcement to a new Red Bull contract. Nope, that did not come out.
No.
that
And
way.
we haven't seen any more
funny
videos
that, isn't
in
it?
the last few days since
Yeah.
he signed.
So let's go around the table then. Do we think it's a good move for Daniel Ricciardo?
Yes, I do, because it gives him a chance to fight at Renault to be the number one driver, because he's moving in there, driving alongside Hulk. Been there a couple of years, and would expect to be the de facto number one because he's seen off a couple of teammates.
I think you'll have to see
One of
off
whom was
Hulk
Palmer.
first.
Yeah. And Danny Rick obviously wasn't going to be the number one at Red Bull because that is Team Max.
It is now.
And I think it was going to be Team Max next season if he'd have stayed.
Well, there's an interesting thing about that because I thought that, and I thought this because he's essentially tripled his salary, hasn't he? Or quadrupled it. I think he was on about $5 million a year, and it's down for $20 million.
He's now on Lewis money.
Yeah. Well, no, not
No,
quite.
not
He's on
quite.
half Lewis money.
Yeah.
But
he's on what he should be being paid.
Yeah.
paid.
yeah. But the
More importantly, he's now on Max money.
yeah, well, this was the thing. I thought to myself, well, I wonder if this has been like a money-orientated thing. But the story that came out of Red Bull was their inside guy, Red Bull, said that Dietrich Mateschitz had a word with Daniel Ricciardo and promised him parity with Max Verstappen, both inside the team and financially, to stay at Red Bull. So he was given the go-ahead that he wasn't going to be a number two, and he was going to be on the same money as Max Verstappen, and it was going to be a multi-year deal. Where it turns out to be, he didn't want a multi-year deal. He wanted a one-year contract with an extension to see what happened with the Honda engine, and they wouldn't give him a one-year deal.
Well, he said all along that this deal isn't about money primarily. He wants to be in a car where he can win a title.
Yeah.
And obviously being in a factory team, that he must feel that's the way to go rather than the gamble with the
Which
Honda
is
engine.
exactly why I think it's a good move for him. At first, I thought, what are you doing? And then I thought, well, no, hang on a second. That makes sense. He's at a factory team.
Yeah.
And his statement that he put out at the time saying that Renault have always won. They always find a way to win whenever they're in Formula One. And said, I want to be there when they start doing it with this team. Which is, we've always said about Renault being great at developing the car, and that they will be. And they will be right up there soon.
And Ricardo's got something that Hulk hasn't really got anymore. It's time.
And I tell you what, well,
I was going to say podiums.
they're rough.
Yeah, podiums would be
I think
the way
they're
to
rough.
go.
Champagne-stained racing overalls.
Well, Ricardo's 29 and Hulk's 32.
Yeah.
So there's
not
only 3
masses
years
between
difference
them,
between them. But even still, this is also going to show us how good Nico Hülkenberg is. Finally, we're going to see how good Nico Hülkenberg actually is.
Yeah.
If he matches or even beats Daniel Ricciardo in that Renault,
Yeah.
Hulkenberg stock rises significantly.
Yeah.
We've all thought that Hulkenberg being able to keep Sainz quiet is Sainz not being on top form. But what if Sainz is on top form?
This being the same way as when Michael Schumacher couldn't get on terms with Rosberg when they were in Mercedes. We went, my God, Michael Schumacher's come back shit. Actually, turns out Rosberg was pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's a good move for him. I think going to a factory team's the only way he's going to win a world championship. Renault are obviously not going to be supplying Red Bull any further from the end of this season.
No.
And he's chosen to go with even though that power unit has put paid to a few race wins and decent positions for him, he's decided to go with the manufacturer team over.
But is that
a
down
new Honda
to-
deal.
I don't want to say Christian Horner's paranoia but it is that Renault are providing not the best
Substandard
parts
parts.
now that the deal is coming to an end.
Well, they provide the parts. They don't necessarily set them up in the car. That's on Red
And-
Bull and Renault. I don't think have had as many problems.
And neither of McLaren.
No. It's something Red Bull do to the engine that seems
It
to
must
cause
be
a
the way
problem.
that the driver, that is set up for the drivers, because Max has more failures than Daniel as well.
It could be.
Possibly.
I also think it might be just the way they package the car. We've spoke about
Yeah.
this
Or how
before.
close they run it to the
Yeah.
limit.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
Whether they could
packaging,
find the same
fuel.
issue with Honda that McLaren found.
yeah. So I mean, Toro Rosso are in this sort of comfortable position where we don't know how they're running that engine in that car. Whereas McLaren were desperate to get performance out of it, and they were desperate to make something happen. So if Toro Rosso were essentially not being forced or being told to run it at a more sensible, conservative range.
Yeah, I think you might be right on there because McLaren, we've got to get a win with that engine in that car.
Yeah.
Toro Rosso, if we do this right, we can get top 5.
Yeah, and that's
Exactly, yeah. That's the right way to go about it.
And the best, Toro Rosso are essentially bloody data miners this year, aren't
They're
they?
testing,
Yeah.
aren't
Yeah,
they, now
they
to the
are,
rest
yeah.
of the season.
Yeah. Even Red Bull hierarchy have been forced to come out and deny it, haven't they? And as soon as something's officially denied in Formula One, you know that it's true.
Yeah.
But this leaves, of course, questions, because if Danny Ricciardo is going to Renault,
I was going to say, let's go on the domino effect. Carlos Sainz.
Carlos Sainz is clearly leaving Renault.
Yes, this is a fact.
Yes.
Red Bull have until the 30th of September to take up his option.
It will not be a
You're
straight
also
swap.
right as well. I was reading the other day. It has to be the
The big boy team.
big boy team.
Can't go back to Toro Rosso.
Yeah.
No.
Now, as things stand at the moment, the way that I can't remember who it was possibly Autosport, could have been race fans. The way that they described it is Sainz at the moment is a de facto Red Bull driver for next year,
Yeah.
unless Red Bull say not by the 30th of September.
I don't
Right,
think
okay.
they'll do this straight swap.
I don't think so
No,
either.
I don't.
I don't think Sainz will want to become teammates and play second fiddle to Max Verstappen at the
Nope.
big boy Red
Correct.
Bull
They
team.
did not
And
get
I-
on
It
at Toro
didn't.
Rosso.
And I don't think Max Verstappen will want Carlos Sainz coming to join him as a teammate.
No.
At
If Sainz came
Red
in and
Bull.
beat him, it wouldn't look good for
No.
him, would it?
And also, I want to point out how crazy it is
Yeah.
that Max Verstappen, at 21 years old, will be the number one driver and the oldest driver in the Red Bull program.
Possibly for now. More wild speculation to follow.
Yeah.
Well,
See,
It's
I
not.
don't-
This isn't just coming from me. I've seen this speculated by other places
Well,
as well.
the other thing to look at then is who's the other guy. If it's not going to be Sainz, Gasly.
I think so.
I think they will go with Gasly.
I don't think they'll go with Gasly because look what happened to
Kvyat.
Kvyat.
Thing is, Gasly's put some decent performances in the Toro
so
Rosso.
had
So
Kvyat.
Kvyat when they bumped him up.
Not
No,
really.
I would say, is this not
Average performances.
Jean-Eric Verne's whole kickoff?
Yeah, was it?
That
He was better.
He's
Yeah.
comparable to Kvyat.
But
No, he was
I
better
think,
results-wise.
Yeah,
I
sometimes.
think Gasly will need another year in Toro Rosso. And I think Red Bull are going to leave him in Toro Rosso for another year.
Yeah, I think he will be staying there. The other name that's being bandied about at the moment is Alonso.
I don't see it because he's not going to win a championship in that car, and he wouldn't want to make the move back to a Honda team. And Honda wouldn't want the man who gave him
Honda
so
don't
much
want him
bad
at all,
PR.
do they?
No, I don't think the the issues with Honda are as deep as you think they are, because they were still like sucking the tool of Alonso during Indy.
But he's also tied to Toyota until
Yeah.
May next year. Honda
Doesn't make
wouldn't
sense.
want a Toyota boy driving their engine.
Maybe.
Somebody who's in Toyota, somebody who's in Toyota
I'd also-
overalls
don't
every other
forget,
weekend.
I still stand by the thing that I don't think Alonso is going to see out that whole season in LMP1.
I
Do you
put
reckon he'll get to a point where he can't be passed for the world title and then just say, all right, I've done it now?
I don't think he cares about winning the LMP1 World Championship. I don't think he cares about it.
He's won Le Mans and that's
He's-
his main...
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's why he was there, isn't
Yeah.
it? For the
If anyone
Le Mans.
follows me on Twitter, I put a tweet up of how I think the circus is going to work. I have since changed my mind when I put this up on the 3rd of August, so that's 4 days ago.
And it's out of date already.
And it's out of date already.
Excellent.
As I said, I've put Gasly to Red Bull,
Yeah,
Sainz from Renault to McLaren,
I think Mercedes is
Yeah.
going to McLaren.
Stoffel Van Dorn possibly to Williams. That's the one I'm not so sure on anymore.
I think
I
Stoffel
think
to
Stoffel's
Williams.
out.
I think Stoffel will take Alonso's seat in LMP1.
Stoffel's
No, it
awful.
would be Anthony Davidson, wouldn't it?
Yeah,
He's
it
the-
would be
the
Anthony
backup.
Davidson that get plugged back in.
I've put Lando on loan to Toro Rosso. Don't
Ooh.
forget that Toro Rosso and McLaren are locked in some serious negotiations over James Key.
I think Lando is also going to go to Toro Rosso.
You think Lando could?
Particularly if Gasly goes to Red Bull because they haven't got someone ready in
Yeah.
the program to replace Gasly.
I also don't think it'll be on loan. I think the deal will be that the Red Bull program gets
Yeah.
Lando
There is
Norris.
a cut-off, isn't there, with Norris's contract? I think it's in. I can't remember the exact date, but I think it's October, where McLaren have to promise him a race seat, or he's free to negotiate.
It's like the Max Verstappen situation.
Oh, is that this year?
That's
Yeah.
this
Yeah,
year.
use me or lose me.
Yeah.
Oh well, that'll be it then.
but
He'll be to Red Bull.
Lando has said he's happy not to be in F1 if it guarantees him in 2019, if it guarantees him a McLaren seat in 2020. He's been quoted as saying that.
An F1 seat, I think he said. I don't think he said McLaren seat. He's willing to get a seat anywhere he can that he thinks will work for him.
Yeah, and the Red Bull team, like I don't think it would be a bad move for him to go to Toro Rosso by any stretch of the imagination.
Particularly if it's Gasly in Red Bull, because it could go either way
Yeah.
if he goes there. So if he's shit and is out in a year, suddenly there's a Red Bull seat.
See, but this is why I think Red Bull are going to need
A grown-up.
a grown-up and a big team, because they're used to having in their top team the best team on the grid. As it stands right now, going into next year, I think the strongest lineup on the grid is Renault, between
I would probably agree.
Hulkenberg and Daniel Ricciardo.
With an
Until we know
with
for
an-
definite what's happening with Ferrari, yes.
Yeah, I would say so as well, because in Ferrari at the moment, they've got to have a decision to make. Until we know their decision, I would
I
agree. with Lee.
think Kimmy's staying.
If
I
Kimi
think he will.
stays, that's the strongest lineup on the grid.
Do you think?
Yeah, I do. Because Kimi is driving better than Vettel at the moment.
But I think, maybe. I still think as a team, Hulkenberg and
Ricardo.
are better, because I think
If one doesn't do it, the other could.
and I think you might see a situation where Ricciardo's going to come out on top. I think all around, but he'll make Hulkenberg raise his game.
Yeah.
Yeah, Hulk's going to go one or two. What is it? He will
He'd
either
probably
raise his
push him
game and
onto
match
the podium.
Ricardo,
Well,
I
Ricciardo
yeah.
could
or
score.
end up retiring because he's not as good as we thought he had the potential to be. And I hope
It's
he
the
raises
former.
it.
Yeah.
Or he could go back to LMP1 and win Le Mans single-handedly again.
Again.
Could do, yeah.
Maybe
Ricardo
he could
will,
take
He
Fernando's
could
seat.
take Fernando's seat.
Ricardo will be will score the first podium for Renault next year. They could still score one this year, but for the first podium for Renault next year, I believe will come from Daniel Ricciardo. But I don't think Hulkenberg will be far behind.
Can you imagine the look on Alonso's face if Hulkenberg managed to sneak a win at Monaco next year? Like, well, what's your fucking game?
And then Renault announce an indie program for 2020.
That's yeah. Has Jarno Trulli ever won a
Anything.
24? No, he won Monaco.
Well, I know.
Has he ever won a 24-hour Le Mans?
I don't
Don't
believe
think
he has.
so.
The only
Not
person,
even in the class.
the only two drivers with two of the triple crown are not
Juan Pablo Montoya.
Montoya, that's the one, and Alonso.
That's why Montoya wanted to go LMP1, wasn't it?
Yeah.
The thing, because somebody said to him in an interview, said, have you never thought like going for the Triple Crown?
Yeah, he basically didn't care until Alonso started, and I
Yeah,
think now has
it's like,
decided,
hang on a minute.
why not?
Yeah.
Let's have a go.
Yeah.
And then Zach Brown gave him an LMP2 car, which
Which
I
is
thought was a bit of a
weird.
dick move.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah. So Montoya confirmed for McLaren next year.
Now that Ron's gone, all is forgiven.
No.
So, I mean, we're talking about Toro Rosso like Hartley's out. I think that's a given.
Yeah.
It depends, though, because he's got a super license, and that's something that a lot of Red Bull Junior drivers
Get your
don't
pen
have.
out. Let's build a grid.
Dan Ticktum, I think, stands a
won't
chance.
have the points.
Dan Ticktum
okay, so
has
let's
to
go-
win
Renault,
FIA
'cause we know.
European Formula
So
3.
Mercedes has signed up, aren't they?
Yes,
So we're
Mercedes and Renault are both done, and they're the only ones that are done.
going Bottas and Hamilton. See,
Yes.
Sean,
Did you
did
pause
it.
then?
You
I
it.
did do an article on this a few days ago, but
Yeah.
rumours have changed since then. So
So the next best team after that, at the moment, as things stand, Ferrari,
Yeah.
Vettel
correct.
plus question marks.
I think Kimi.
I think it will be Kimi.
I think it's going to be Kimi as well.
Now that
Kimi
you've got
or who else is rumoured
Charles
for that seat?
Leclerc would be the other one.
So
But
there's nobody else really rumoured for
There's
that.
nobody
seat,
else
is
in
there?
The
the
only
frame
other
for that.
person
But then
that's really
Ricciardo
been-
wasn't rumoured for Renault.
No, Ricardo was rumoured to Ferrari at the start of the season, wasn't it? There was this whole thing about they had exclusive negotiating rights with
So I'll
him.
put
But
Kimi / Leclerc.
Yes.
Because Raikkonen's too long to write.
it's easier to spell as well, Kimi.
Yeah.
Renault are confirmed.
Yes.
Yeah, but, well, Red Bull, we don't know, do we? We've got
It's
question
Verstappen.
marks and Verstappen.
I've just got a feeling that they're going to go with Alonso.
It
I
depends
th-
if
I-
Alonso wants to as well. He could go to IndyCar.
I think it's pretty much a given that Red Bull are going to have to, for the first time, go outside the program.
No, well, they already have Max Verstappen. Daniel
Well, he
Ricciardo
did. He
was
did.
part
He
of
did
it.
Toro Rosso for a
Yeah, but they
year and a
brought
bit,
him
didn't
in. He was
Yeah.
nothing to do with the driver program.
Yeah, but I mean, for the first time, the Red Bull Big Boy team
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
is going to get an outside driver. Mm-hmm. They are actually going to have to act like a Formula One team
Yeah.
and not like some, I don't know, human growing lab in a dystopian sci-fi film.
Yeah, yeah.
And yeah, it's gonna be outside help. And in some ways, I pity the driver that comes into it because they won't have been indoctrinated in the Red Bull way.
Yeah. I mean,
Which, all right, might only be a 30-minute shouting out by Helmut Marko, but who would want to go through that anyway at the start of every working day?
see, the only thing I think about Alonso going to Red Bull is how deeply he's going to entrench himself within McLaren, because I see Alonso as a Prost, and he's obviously going to go and do his Indy thing at some point. I mean, he might even never do a full season in Indy. He might just keep having a stab at the Indy 500.
Possibly.
But I see him being a Prost in the way that at some point I would not be surprised to see a Fernando Alonso racing team.
He's got all his karting schools, hasn't
Yeah.
he? He has.
He
He has
seems-
set up his own stuff.
Just as he seems a little bit over the hill and probably not going to do very much,
Yeah.
gets a drive in the car that's going to win the World Championship and wins the World Championship.
Yeah.
That's very, very Prost thing to
Yeah.
do. Yeah.
But I just think he's going to be around a Formula One paddock for a long time.
So I've written all the teams down in the time that you guys
Yes.
are talking there. So we've got Mercedes, Bottas and Hamilton, that's confirmed. Ferrari, Vettel and question marks, Kimi or Charles Leclerc.
Who do we think as we're going around?
Kimi.
I think Kimi's doing enough to keep a seat
I
at the
think
moment.
Kimi.
And I'm going to be a bit harsh. I think the death of Sergio Marchionne has actually sort of
The nail in the
safeguarded
Leclerc
Kimi.
coffin.
No, not at all. Just safeguarded Kimi for that seat for one more year. Your man's already said he doesn't want to shake too much up.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if they just said, look, just keep things the same for next year.
Mm-hmm.
We're already halfway through this year. Keep things the same for next year, and we'll just see how we go from there.
Keeps Vettel happy as well, doesn't it?
Keeps
He likes
Vettel
Kimi.
happy.
Yeah, that likes Kimi as a teammate.
So we're locking in Kimi at
Yes.
Ferrari.
Yeah.
which
I think
means-
it's good for Leclerc as well.
Gives him another year, doesn't
Yeah.
it? And then he's not quite as much of a new boy.
Red Bull, we've got question marks plus Verstappen.
For me, that's Gasly.
I think Gasly.
I think Alonso, there's just something about it. I think Alonso's going to get his year in a top team.
But the thing is, I don't think he'd go with it being Honda and with it not being confirmed, not being so sure of race
Yeah.
wins.
It's a Honda engine. There's no way he'd be allowed to hawk him over as much at Red Bull. He'd have to do a fuck ton of shit
Toyota
fannying
thing as
about.
well, yeah.
Fannying about. They always do some kind of weird
You say that,
media
but even
stuff.
Kamoa as a brand, I think suits Red Bull.
Red Bull have recently this year signed a new sunglasses partner,
Really?
which Daniel Ricciardo is the poster boy for. So that
Oops.
will
Yeah.
presumably get reshot at
I
some
know
point.
Kamoa do sunglasses, but they also do
Hats.
all the clothes.
They do hats.
It's
They
a
do
surfwear thing, isn't
t-shirts
it?
with
Yeah.
hipster slogans.
So I'm going to put gas / Paul. Anyone else?
I haven't got anyone else, but I think it's hard to say. It's going to be one of those two.
Or should we put Sainz in there? Just Gasly, Sainz, Alonso.
Sainz is a possibility,
I don't think
but
it's
I
Alonso,
think he's
no.
the least likely of the three.
Yeah.
You think Sainz is least likely of the three?
Yeah.
Oh, right, okay. Force India, 2 question marks. No drivers are signed up for next year for Force
It's going to be
India.
Lance Stroll in one of those cars.
Possibly even before the end of this year. So should we
I
put...
don't
Let's,
see it
Again, like I
myself.
said earlier, can't see that happening.
who's Lance Stroll's manager?
His dad.
So that's Lance Stroll
Yeah.
in this team then, isn't it? We don't need to repeat what we
Lance
just
Stroll and
Yeah.
Perez, I think.
Stroll.
I think Perez will get the seat as a reward for
Yeah.
kicking off the process that saved the team.
And he
think
seems
so. He's a good
between.
driver.
I was just
Yeah.
going to
Plus-
say, he's the better driver between him and Ocon.
And it also gives, much in the similar way as I was saying before about Daniel Ricciardo and Nico Hulkenberg. We'll see how good Hulkenberg is going to be, or really is. Stroll and Perez, that's a good matchup. Perez is
Yeah.
not the old driver who's, phoning it in. I've come
Yeah.
back, I've come out of retirement for a year because you can't find anyone else. He's also not a super young driver who they can't really compare Stroll with. Perez is a good, solid driver who's
Solid
been in the sport.
midfield driver.
And he's
Outperforms
fast.
the car.
yeah.
So yeah, he often outperforms the car. So let's just see how good Lance Stroll is against Perez.
I'll tell you what, if it is Stroll and Perez next year, look for a damn good Force India result in Azerbaijan.
Or a
Good
crash.
point. Yeah.
Tricky. One thing I would say though, if it is Stroll and Perez, that's a massive height difference. Stroll's quite tall. I have
Perez
in
is
my head.
quite small.
Ocon is tall. Perez is short.
Hulkenberg and
that's gonna
Ricciardo
be
are
in-
both quite tall.
They're tall.
They are.
Because when Hulkenberg went to Sauber and replaced Perez, it took like half the season to fit him in the car.
Yeah, that was the problem with that car,
Yeah.
wasn't it? Was that
There's
it wasn't
about an
built for
8-inch height
Hulkenberg.
difference between them.
Yeah.
Ocon's quite tall, though, isn't he?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Ocon's
about
massive.
6'2",
Yeah.
yeah.
It's quite hilarious watching Perez and Ocon have to do media stuff where they're
So
stood
he-
next
It,
to
it
each
was,
other.
it was like that TT video that you filmed of me and Chris in the paddock,
Yeah.
and
I had
I
to
was standing
crouch
on
down.
tiptoes, and Chris was crouching down and leaning against a wall.
Yeah. Haas.
Magnussen.
I think K-Mag's done enough.
K-Mag, definitely.
He's
And
looking like a really good driver again, which I don't know if he was
He's
broken.
a bit of a hothead occasionally, but
But I think K-Mag's in for Haas. Do you reckon so, Lee?
Yeah.
The other seat, I think, is Charles Leclerc's.
ooh, interesting.
That's probably it's a good call,
It's not
actually.
a
I
bad
don't
shout.
think it's Grosjean's. I put on my tweet, Grosjean to the kitchen
Yes.
was my silly season rumor.
Grosjean has got points in 3 of his last 4 races, including Haas's best ever result.
but also took nearly half a season to get his first.
This is
one.
also true. This is also true. Giovinazzi would
Is-
possibly be a
Yeah.
thing.
I think he would be into Sauber, probably.
He could
first.
replace Leclerc.
Yeah, I think that's probably
Yes.
more likely. So, what do we think? Who do we think? Are we going to put Grosjean in there as well as Leclerc, or
No, I think
I don't
Grosjean's
know.
gone.
I think Grosjean's finished.
Haas?
The problem as well they've got at Haas is the Ferrucci situation.
Ferrucci
because-
is gone.
Yeah, he's-
Ferrucci's done because Haas didn't
Yeah.
even bother testing in Hungary.
So, are we sort of all on the same line? There? We think maybe Charles Leclerc. Is there anyone else?
Someone,
Who put
someone
in there?
from the Ferrari program. I think.
I think Charles
realistically,
But
is
Leclerc.
there.
not Danny Kvyat or Marc Genet.
No.
No, neither of those.
I think
One-
you're right. I think Charles
one-
Leclerc.
One name that has been bandied about with Haas is Pietro Fittipaldi. But more,
He's
I
just
think,
coming
for
back
a-
from all of the
Pietro-
broken
yes,
legs,
he
isn't
still
he?
does
Pietro-
not have 2 legs.
Pietro Fittipaldi, I reckon, will be their occasional FP1 driver
I
next
think
season.
so too.
He's also young, like
He is.
incredibly young.
Yeah.
He's about 20, 21, something
He's
like
not
that.
even that old, is he? Pietro
I can't
Fittipaldi.
remember.
Is
about-
he Emerson's son?
Grandson.
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 Grandson. But yeah, he suffered double broken leg at the 6 hours of Spa.
And raced anyway.
And he
double
did not.
No,
He's just come back.
Just come back in IndyCar.
But actually, Ferrucci was one of the drivers that filled in for him in IndyCar while he was regrowing his legs.
Oh, double broken leg? Is that
double
two
broken
broken legs or one broken in two places?
Two
Both,
broken
both
legs.
broken. One quite badly by all accounts.
One broken in about 6 places.
One was like sticking out, I think.
He's
Bone
now
was
using one
out
of
skin.
those. He was using one of those kneeling scooters on the IndyCar grid last week. The ones that you see American footballers use, where you're pushing with one leg and the other leg's knelt on it.
So
And that's
is it-
how he got to his car.
Is that like a possible career ender?
Could have been, yeah.
Or like, no, but I mean,
It
like,
could have been a career finishing one, but he raced in IndyCar.
did he do well?
Finished, I
He-
think,
he
didn't
fin-
he?
he finished the
he
race.
didn't like win, but
Or is it do you think it's a career harmer, if we're honest?
no, I think he'll
No.
be all right. He's
This
young.
kid come
He's
back.
still
had good
young. He's young
surgery.
enough. Like he's fine. He's not like when how old was Schumacher when he broke his leg? About 30.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he still went on, and it's not like one of those.
One
Sort
for
of,
a few more years.
yeah.
Yeah. No, it was a nasty crash, but he will be back to his levels of ability from before, and he's still learning.
So should we put Leclerc in for Haas then?
Leclerc with Fittipaldi as test driver.
Yeah.
So I'll put Leclerc and Fittipaldi. I'll put that underneath
I think he will be
He'll-
the Friday morning guy.
Friday mornings. I'll just put FP1.
Yeah.
Next team on the grid, the one we hate talking about so much, McLaren.
Christ.
Science.
Sainz and Lando.
Sainz and Lando seems the smart.
I think.
money.
Well, does that mean you think that?
I think it's Sainz and Lando, but there's another part of me that also thinks, no, wait, hang on a second. Zach Brown took over this team to get the money in. Alonso's going to stay at McLaren. Sainz is going to come in, and they're gonna team Spain the fuck out of that car, and it's going to be blue and yellow Telefonica, or it's going to be Repsol or something very Spanish.
Yeah.
Because there's
Kimoa.
maybe there's Spanish interest in Formula One, which they struggled with for years because there was no decent winning Spanish driver until Fernando Alonso.
Spain, I remember, I think it was Martin Brundle that said it, that Spain didn't give a toss about Formula One
Till Alonso started
until
winning.
Alonso started winning races. And then all of a sudden it was, oh, it is as good as the bikes.
Yeah, exactly. And all right, they've got Marquez in MotoGP doing wonderful things. He's just had his 100th MotoGP race and he's won 40 of them.
Yeah.
70
So-
podiums or something like that as
so
well. It's
it's
ridiculous.
40% win rate in the top class of
Is a
motorsport.
little
It's
bit crazy.
Alonso doesn't have that win percentage.
he makes Vettel's the beginning of Vettel's career look patchy.
So, should we go with McLaren? Do we all think Carlos Sainz is going to end up at McLaren after being either unceremoniously hoofed out of Renault or choosing to leave?
Set free.
I
Because
think
he said he wanted to stay,
Yeah.
and he's clearly not staying.
no. But I can't help think that, mind you, Hulkenberg was contracted anyway, and they're not going to let up. You're always going to sign Daniel Ricciardo over Carlos Sainz, aren't you? If
Well,
you
they
can get a
tried
driver.
to, didn't they? They tried to last year when they binned off Palmer. By all
Yeah.
accounts, they went to Red Bull and said, "Can we have Ricardo?" and were told where to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's the kids' elephant strategy when they want a puppy. So, Dad, I want a pet. What do you want? Can I have an elephant? Can't you have something sensible like a puppy instead? Yes. Yeah. Can we have one of your race-winning drivers? No, you can have the young guy.
That'll
All
do.
right.
That'll do.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we all saying Sainz at McLaren, but we're unsure about the
Well,
other
I mean,
team.
your man has already turned around and said if he was available, Zach Brown has already said if Carlos was available, he would be high on the shopping list for McLaren.
Yeah.
You don't say comments like that.
No. Well, he's
just
also said they were
willy-nilly.
on the verge of signing Ricardo, which definitely means they're after at least one driver.
Stoffel's gone.
Yeah.
We think Stoffel's gone. Who is in that other McLaren
I
seat?
think we'll carry on seeing Fernando.
I
Stoffel taking the third seat and doing Monaco.
Yeah, if
Because Fernando will do Indy next year.
Well, it did.
Did we record that? Was that before we started recording? We were talking about that.
yeah, Fernando will do Indy, but the
You need to put your password in because I'm hoping this is recorded.
I'm sure it is. I'll do this first.
It's fine. It's
still
fine.
going.
Yeah, I don't see Formula One without Alonso next year. I don't think he wants to go anywhere. I don't think he'll leave McLaren on their second year with Renault, just in case they happen to build a good car and the
that Renault
next
engine's
generation
awesome.
happens to be really good next year.
So we're going to...
But
Somebody also said
I think he would go to Red Bull if he was given the opportunity.
that Gilles de Ferran and Andrea Stella coming in
Yeah.
smacks of Alonso's influence.
It does.
It does.
But I think Ricciardo leaving Red Bull might throw a spanner in all of this.
I'm unsure because of all of the reasons already said. I'm not sure that he'd just go... If Red Bull even said to him, do you want to come and drive for us? I don't even think he'd say yes.
I think Alonso would have questions. I
He
think
wouldn't
those,
just blindly accept, would he?
I think that those questions would probably have to be answered by Honda and whatever data is coming off Toro Rosso. Because let's not forget, Toro Rosso, more often than not, have been better than McLaren.
Yeah.
So
The Daily Express said in May
Ooh, that
that
well-known
Alonso,
F1 authority.
yeah, they said in May that Alonso had approached Red Bull,
I'm sure
might
he
have
has.
done.
and they knocked him back.
He approached Red Bull when he was back at Ferrari, didn't
Yeah.
he? He walked straight into the...
But that was when they had a sea of drivers they could plug into the car. Now, since they've been hemorrhaging drivers, so I think he'd go there because don't forget, it is the draw of a newie car as well.
Yeah,
Let's not forget he's one of the best drivers in the world. Like Schumacher. Schumacher wanted to drive a newie car, didn't he?
yeah.
And if anyone, Honda.
Is Vettel the only world champion on the grid that's driven a new car at the moment? I think he is.
Yeah, he probably.
Yeah, he would be.
Kimi
I think.
Räikkönen. It was knew he's still at McLaren.
Yes.
When,
Possibly.
Yeah, Kimi.
Could have been.
But was Newey not at McLaren when Alonso was at McLaren first
I
time
think
round?
that's
No,
when
he'd
he
already
went
gone.
to
He'd
Red
already
Bull.
gone to Red Bull by then.
Yeah. I can see the Christian Horner interview with when they ask what why the decision came around for Alonso to go, and Christian Horner would come out with something like, well, Danny was a big part of the team. We're really going to miss Daniel, but he decided he needed to go and find a new challenge. Alonso's not only one of the best drivers on the grid, he's one of the best drivers of all time. And it works well for Red Bull because they get all that, like, we're still top team on the grid. And it gives them the opportunity to match Max Verstappen with Fernando Alonso.
well, I have this written down here, and we know which episodes to refer back to if this happens. But I personally think that's incredibly unlikely. Just my own.
Yeah, I think I understand what you're saying, and you're probably right. Sense says if you had a tenner to put on which driver was going there, sense says you put that tenner on Gasly.
Yeah.
But
I think there's a lot of racing sense to Alonso going to Red Bull,
Yeah.
possibly, but I think
It's
there's
the
more the
rest of it
business
around it,
and
yeah.
the logistics and sponsorship.
So
and
is there
who
anybody
owns
else
who.
that we're thinking could go into that McLaren? Are we thinking maybe Lando
Could
Norris?
be Lando Norris. If he wins the F2 championship, he can't stay in the F2 championship, so they've got to do something with him. We've seen with Stoffel, they sent him to Super Formula. That really hasn't worked.
Kimi won the title in a Pat Fry car.
Oh, was it right? Okay,
wow.
so it wasn't there.
It wasn't a Newey car. Newey was already at Red Bull by then.
Wow.
I don't think.
No, he won the title in
He
a
won
Pat
the
Fry
title
car. But has he ever? He's a world champion who's driven a Newey car?
Yeah.
Well, he won the title at Ferrari, didn't he?
yeah.
And knew he wasn't at Ferrari.
No, Newey's never been to Ferrari.
I believe they have tried.
Yeah, I just don't. I don't see Gasly there. It's confusing.
I think he's put. I don't know if anybody else spotted it, but he did put up essentially his CV
Yes.
on Twitter.
I loved that. It was so quick, wasn't
when
it?
Daniel Ricciardo had announced that he was leaving Red Bull, within about an hour, Pierre
it's
Gasly
like-
tweeted, "Great first half of the season, 28 points. What was it? 3
Yeah.
sixth place finishes." like
place.
or fourth place, 3 top 6 finishes and stuff like that. It was like, hang on a second,
Yeah.
PA.
It was an advert.
His seat's not even cold, mate.
It was
It's
like when Nico Rosberg announced his retirement. Within about 5 minutes, Pascal Wehrlein was tweeting gym pictures of "Look how professional I'm being at the moment." That did
Yeah.
not work out well for him.
No, it didn't.
But
Poor
anyway,
Pascal.
Kimmy didn't win the title in a new car.
No, he didn't win the title in a new car.
Just
is
has
he
he
a world
driven
champion
was
that's
the
driven a
question.
new car? Yeah.
Also, that leaves if Gasly does go to Red Bull, and as what I think is going to happen, I think Lando's going to go to Toro Rosso as part of the deal, so he'll be
Yeah.
a future
Mm-hmm.
Red Bull driver.
I've got perhaps Lando Norris down as Toro Rosso
Yeah.
on loan for maybe a season.
So, but do you see Hartley there next year?
No, I
No.
think Dan Ticktum will.
Dan
Dan
Ticktum,
Ticktum is performance dependent.
I think
Yeah.
Dan Ticktum will be racing in a Red Bull lookalike car in F2.
Yeah.
Very possibly.
Or will be racing in an ART car in F2 because they
Yeah.
seem to win everything
Yeah.
with Red Bull logos on it.
But from us saying, I think 2 weeks ago that Dan Ticktum, there's no way he can get the points to do it.
He needs a massive mathematical issue.
He's entering GT events, which
In
will
Japan.
which will give him the points he needs to
He has to
acquire
win
a super license.
So he's gotta win
European
everything
Formula
and-
3 because that now doesn't have the same points this year that it had last
Right,
year.
okay.
So
He's got an Alonso-esque workload
Yeah.
that he's got to win just about every race to
Yeah,
get
but-
into F1.
But it's not going to happen
But
because
it's not.
they're not going to bring a driver into Formula One that hasn't even been able to test a Formula One car.
yeah,
He
he
has been
hasn't
able
got the
to-
points.
He has tested.
It's also going to make a mockery
He
of
hasn't.
the
He
new
hasn't got the points to test.
Oh, is he not?
That's why they had
I
to
thought he
run.
tested.
Jake,
No.
Jake thing.
Jake Dennis.
Dennis.
Yeah, that's how interesting
Yeah.
Jake
Yeah.
Dennis is. Can't remember his name.
He can only get an A license, which lets him test an F1 car if he finishes in the top 3 in European F3 this season.
Yeah.
Um,
So he'd have to go into Formula One next year, having not driven a car till testing.
Yeah.
and it would
That's
make a
not good,
complete
is it?
mockery of the new super license rules, which were meant to stop drivers moving from F3 series
To Formula One.
straight to F1. All right, Max was a one-off.
Yeah.
But you look back at some of the other drivers that have done it, UGE Day.
Yeah.
His
Yeah, Frank Montani.
Stroll? Didn't
Yeah.
Stroll go from-
Stroll.
Yeah.
I'm just going to throw 2 names into the hat for Toro Rosso to
If
suddenly
one of them's Sean Gallale, then you're going to throw it into the hat. It's going to bounce off the barrier, wipe 3 cars out, and finish in the gravel backwards.
Aston Maldonado.
neither of them are Pastor Maldonado or Sean Gallale.
Don't forget, Red Bull do have a tie-up with Sean Gallale because of his dad's money.
Yeah, they do, but I'm not sure Sean Gallale's the right person either. I think Jack Aitken and Artem Markelov will be. Well, there's no way they're going in Renault next year, is there? Because
No.
Renault are
But I
confirmed.
don't think Jack Aitken's been good enough to get to
No.
Formula One this
And
year
I
so
don't-
far.
Markelov,
I
on the
don't
other hand,
think either of them would end up in a Red Bull owned team because what have Red Bull just done to Renault?
yeah, but
And they are both on the Renault program.
well,
But
yeah,
if they're not
that's
getting
the
in the
thing.
Renault car anyway, why not fuck it off and go somewhere else?
Yeah, exactly. I think Artem Markelov might end up in a
I can see
Toro Rosso.
Markelov going there.
See, Markelov screams Sauber driver to me or something
No,
like
no,
that.
because Sauber is a Ferrari.
Yeah, no, but
It's programmed, but-
second Sauber seat. Do you like the Ericsson seat, not the Ferrari seat?
I
of
wouldn't
that
even
team.
put him in Sorokin seat, to be honest.
Markelov was one of the names mentioned when they were trying to sack Hartley
Yeah,
a few
he's-
months ago.
See, he's been like Markelov's been spectacular at times, but he doesn't look like he's threatening the championship.
That's usually because he's great on a Sunday, but to do well in F2, you need to be good on a Saturday.
Yeah.
And he's great on a Sunday because he's good at finishing 8th on a Saturday.
Exactly. I was just going to say, it seems like he races for reverse grid.
So who do we tie in?
What was it? Hungary. Markelov's languishing down in 10th place with about 8 laps left. He's going to get 8th.
Yeah.
You just know it and did it on the last lap.
It's like when everyone started getting stiffies for Kamui Kobayashi, and I never got that either. I never got the
Because he was a rocket.
He was exciting
because
to watch.
because he crashed his way around a couple of people at Spoon. You know,
So we don't know about the second Toro Rosso seat. No, we can't appear to agree.
I think Toro
it's
Rosso
Gasly
is a
and,
big
and
mystery.
Lando,
Gasly and Lando. I'll
Yeah.
put Gasly in the second.
and I'm going for
Could they come back to Alex Albon?
They could do.
Because
He'll have- yeah.
Alexander Albon was on the Red Bull program, and they'd meet ground him, but he's actually not been all that bad.
Is he still in with a chance of winning the title as well?
He's
Could do, yeah.
he's there or thereabouts.
Yeah.
And he's been in there for 2 years,
How
so I
old
think
is he?
22, 23. He's not a baby, but he's.
He's
He's got the points and he's got the experience.
Yeah.
Could
He-
Danny Kvyat come
No.
back?
No,
No.
Ferrari on him now, don't they? But yeah, Alexander Albon very close to beating Charles Leclerc in GP3 a couple of years ago.
So let's put
So
Albon
he
as a
is a good
possibility.
driver.
So Gasly or Albon? We'll see.
Stoffel?
I don't think
Nah, I can't
Stoffel's.
see that.
He's too old.
Maybe Stoffel is an outside bet for the second Haas seat if he doesn't take the third driver role at McLaren and be K-magged.
I think he'd be an ideal guy for the second half.
Possibly.
I think he'd be a good Williams driver if they don't do a technical partnership.
Yeah, it's probably not a bad shout.
Let's move on to Sauber. Now, if we're hoofing Charles Leclerc to Haas or to Ferrari, we've got to think that seat's going to go to Giovinazzi.
Giovinazzi and Ericsson. I think Ericsson.
Do you think Ericsson will retain his seat?
Ericsson will stay on because he's actually proved to be better now the car's better.
Yeah, and he's not good, done
And
bad results.
I'm
and he's
going to
still got some
repeat
money
myself
coming in.
from he has the Solana sponsorship and that. I'm going to repeat myself from the last 3 years of summer break podcasts. Ericsson comes good in the second half of the season. So if he's been all right so far, he might be. I'm not saying he's definitely going to be. He might be really good in the second half of the season.
Yeah, and he scored points in the first half, so if he can improve on that.
He
Yeah.
actually did really well in the kind of the tricky wetness that was Germany when everyone
Yeah,
was
he
like,
did.
what the fuck do
Yeah.
we do with the tyres? He actually was one of the ones that made up quite a few places because he got it right and made it work.
So we're going to put Ericsson back in that seat. The man who we
Possibly.
were convinced was losing his seat.
We've been
this time
convinced
last
that
year.
Ericsson has been losing his seat on a weekly basis.
Remember we were getting messages from Scandinavian listeners saying, "Stop hating our drivers."
Yeah.
He's grown on us.
He's come good.
We were hating on Magnussen and Ericsson,
Yeah.
weren't we? Now look at them. You see, they can turn it around. We
Yeah.
said if they turn it around, we'll be nice to them.
Yes,
They've turned it around, and we
I-
put them
I
both
like to
in for
think-
2019.
we're responsible for this.
Yeah.
In a little way, we are because we send out the right positive vibes
It is
once a year.
once a year,
Now,
but no, it's
You,
like
usually around about this time, I've got bugger all else to talk about.
negative reinforcement is what it is.
Williams,
Stop being a cunt. We'll be happy.
Williams.
not Lance Stroll.
Not.
No.
And I'm also going to say,
Not
probably.
not Sorokin.
I don't think so either.
If they
Yeah.
can afford to not have Sorokin.
Yeah.
Right.
I think we're going to have to look at two Williams lineups here. We're going to have to look at Williams, Mercedes technical partnership Williams, and Williams sitting alone, no sponsors.
No,
Williams.
I reckon we are going to see either a full technical partnership from Mercedes or help because they've dropped a driver in there to reduce the costs. Both ways, George Russell will be driving a Williams in my
Yeah.
mind.
George Russell, and I want to say if it's a Mercedes tie up, Esteban Ocon in the other seat.
I think
If it's a Mercedes partnership.
I think Mercedes have lost faith in Esteban Ocon because they just don't talk about him.
Yeah.
Teammates with Verline in DTM next year.
Yeah, very rarely is he referred to
They're
as a
not
Mercedes
in
driver
DTM
now.
next year, are they not?
No, they're not. They're pulling out.
Oh,
Aren't they?
that's true.
Esteban Ocon, if it's a Mercedes partnership. But if it's not, I don't even know if George Russell will be in that seat.
I think George Russell will be in there to get discount on the engines because Williams are broke.
And the gearbox thing, I think the gearbox thing's confirmed, isn't it? That's
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
definitely.
I
been
think that's
talked
part
about.
of the Russell deal.
But it's
Could
not.
be.
It's not. The gearbox is not a problem for Williams. Like they're not having gearbox issues.
No,
Yeah,
no,
but if
but-
they've not got to pay to do their own version,
and,
then
if,
that
and
saves
if
them
they
some
don't
money.
have to build it as well, that
Yeah.
gives them more times to address the problems they've got.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So
it's just
So
one
the-
less thing to worry about.
The computer time and the simulator time and the CFD time that's spent working on the gearbox can be spent working on other areas of the car.
Because
don't forget, you only get a certain amount of time for the whole package.
They have to follow Haas. They have to follow the Haas model for sustainability.
To be honest, if you're not a manufacturer, then you've got to have some kind of tie-up, and it's got to be like got to be like the MotoGP.
And do the tie-up, because don't forget, a team like Williams, who have got all the facilities there and the personnel, they can get into bed with a manufacturer and be the like de facto second team until like this new Formula One that we're all crossing our fingers for that comes around with where it's cheaper to get in, so more manufacturers want to come in to supply engines for it, and then it might be in another 5 years' time a Williams BMW again, or a Williams fucking Honda once Red Bull have like shit the bed.
Or like in Grand Prix Manager 2, where you couldn't get a deal and you got assigned a Nissan customer engine.
Yes.
I've written Esteban Ocon down, and the reason I've written him down is because I think Mercedes have probably learned from their past, and they were lucky to get hold of Bottas when Rosberg decided to go, I'm out of here, knowing full well that either Bottas or Hamilton could at any point just turn around and go, I'm done, see you later. They'd have no one to put into that seat.
I don't have the
Straight
answer.
away.
I don't have the answer for the second seat.
I kind of do, because Robert Kubica still comes with $1 million a race sponsorship.
Yeah.
This is if there's not a tie-in.
Yeah. Williams need the money.
Yeah.
There are 21 races in a season.
Yeah.
Robert Kubica can bring in $21 million.
It's not far away from Stroll money, that.
It's not.
The only other thing I would say there is I still blame Claire Williams' management by the looks of it. I could be completely wrong, but just from the outsider, looking at the television, that appears to be an issue. And the decline in Williams seems to be when the old management started falling away and she became the figurehead of the team.
And the thing is, you never see anybody else in management aside from the occasional Paddy Lowe. And we don't see we've only started seeing Rob Smedley again because him and Sky have now appear to have made up.
But even when they're on, they are like Smedley is there talking about his role within the team. He is like Rob Smedley, employee of Williams, not Rob Smedley, manager of Williams. And it's very much the same with Paddy Lowe. You know, it's so like Claire seems to be the figurehead of that team, and it doesn't seem to be working particularly well.
So I've got Williams with Mercedes and Williams alone. And Williams alone, I think Sirotkin could be in there.
But
sorry.
Back to what I said about an hour and a half ago. I think the main problem with that team this year, because the people are there, and like we say, they're desperate for money, but there's no way they're the lowest funded team on the grid.
Not a chance.
No. So they're not.
They've not gone into administration owing tens of millions of pounds.
Yeah, they're not that desperate for money. Every Formula One team that isn't a manufacturer needs extra money.
They reckon they're about 100 million off Ferrari's budget, which is supposedly the biggest budget in the sport.
Which is 200 million, is it? Or 400 million?
No idea.
Something like that. It's
fucking... The one way to describe Ferrari budgets was Ferrari's annual hospitality budget was the same as the entire budget for the Minardi team in 1998.
Yeah. But the thing is, I still blame two inexperienced race drivers and a guy that hasn't driven a modern Formula One car until he started the role of test driver.
Yeah.
I still blame those three people for the situation Williams is in. So I think he's not going to do it because he's going to Formula E. But Williams needs a Massa next to George Russell. So you're going to have George Russell, and they need an experienced Formula One driver. Discuss.
I think.
Let it go. He's doing Super GT, then he's retiring from racing and concentrating on triathlons. He's not coming.
No,
back.
He definitely isn't coming back. But I tell you what, it wouldn't be a bad move if he wanted to. It wouldn't be. But I can't. That's all I can think is I can't think of the only driver I can think, which is an experienced Formula One driver, which is going to be going begging at the end of the year, is going to be Romain Grosjean.
Or Sainz, possibly. If he doesn't end up at McLaren, he might be.
Again, is he a bit too young for that? Like you're saying, you possibly need someone late 20s, early 30s.
that knows about testing.
You need the Danny Glover to the Mel Gibson.
Yeah.
How many times am I going to reference Lethal Weapon today? We're on to 3 so far, by the way.
Oh, yeah, I haven't noticed.
Oh no! The
Lethal Weapon 3.
first 2 were this afternoon.
Oh, right, okay.
Every time Chris said I'm getting too old for this shit when he was complaining about being knackered
Are
after
you
going to
doing
the gig
jokes
last
with
night.
yourself?
Yes.
Right.
If anyone was inside my head, they'd know what I'm talking about. No, I do understand, but would Williams want Grosjean?
No.
And I
No.
don't think they would.
That's
Too-
what I mean.
too crashy.
I can't think of. Look what they've got.
Too crashy for Williams.
We've got crashy drivers that pay us money. We take on Grosjean, we've got to pay him and pay for the repairs.
That is the thing. I mean, I don't know what does Grosjean come with any sponsorship? Is there any like
I
Don't
don't
know.
think he does anymore.
onion companies, garlic companies?
Cook
Sponsored
books.
by his recipe book.
It's not
Yeah.
quite Kamoa, is it?
At home with the Grosjeans.
À la maison, avec les Grosjean.
Yeah.
But I just can't think of the driver. They need the like what Barrichello was at the time when he joined Williams, and then Massa fell into that role
Yeah.
quite nicely as well.
So they need an old Brazilian driver.
Yeah,
The Claire Williams home for nearly retired Brazilians.
yeah.
Bruno Senna?
Kimi, like we said before, if Ferrari had have got rid of Kimi, he'd have been ideal if he'd go to Williams.
Yeah.
Not Brazilian enough.
Not Brazilian enough.
It probably wouldn't give them the detailed feedback they need. It's okay.
Too much finish.
Yeah.
They got rid of the one. Oh, maybe that's the problem. No,
No
Finland in
fins.
the car now.
Yeah. But yeah, I think George is in the car though. And then
Regardless of a full tie-up with Mercedes or not, he's going to be there as part of the engine and gearbox deal because it's going to save them an absolute fortune.
be interested to see if they took Dorista back on as test driver.
See, I thought he was a good shout for race driver as well.
He'd have been better than what's in there now.
What they've got
You would
now,
think.
yeah.
I mean, does Ollie Rowland come into the equation?
I find it difficult
He'd
because he's
need
a...
money, I think, to
Yeah.
get in there.
He doesn't have it,
I don't
so
think he does.
I don't think we'll see him on Fridays.
But again, if you're taking a driver on that you don't pay,
All right. Here's one. He's with Mercedes at the moment. He's got the experience, not masses of experience, but he's driven a Formula
not
One
Massa
car.
experience.
Not Massa experience. Esteban Gutierrez.
Oh, good lord. I thought you were going to say Verline or
No,
something.
no.
Jesus Christ.
He's still pimping himself around. He's only just come out recently and said, "Yeah, actually, I've been doing simulator work for Mercedes, and I want to get my way back into an actual race seat." Would he be? Because by all accounts,
Was he supposed to tell everyone he was doing Mercedes simulator work? Or
He's a
Mercedes
step
just been like,
sideways,
"Good
though,
God."
isn't he?
by all accounts, he's good at testing and he's good at giving feedback.
Which is why he was a Ferrari test and development driver for, was it a year or two after he left Haas?
Yeah. So is he part of the potential solution?
I don't. You do get these people that become permanent test drivers, though, don't
Pedro
you?
de la Rosa.
Yeah.
Yeah, what was it? His first race back for Sauber, and he had to do it in his McLaren overalls because it happened that quick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, did FP1 in his McLaren overalls.
It was
I
when
would-
Perez had his accident, wasn't it? Perez had his accident
Yeah.
at Monaco, thought he was going to be okay, and then on the Thursday it was like, Perez is not okay. So Friday, De La Rosa jumped in the car.
It was literally anyone got a super license and fancies a go.
Yeah.
No,
De La
I,
Rosa.
I'm calling it. I just had a thought of something then. Either be Jenson Button. I just
Did we not move away
No,
from that
no,
a minute
no,
ago?
no.
It's come
Jenson
back
Button
around.
come with money.
It's come back
'Cause
around.
Three Legs, Four Wheels is
he's-
brought to you
he
by
must have
Stevens
his own money.
Shoehorns.
must
You want to
have a
shoehorn
decent wedge
something
of his
in?
own, surely.
Use a Stevens.
It's not just that though, is it? It's with Button. He's one of the most marketable drivers on the grid.
Jenson Button, I'm going to put Dave Daddario
Would you like to know my thought here of why?
Do you know what? If Dave Daddario gets in the car, we stand a chance of getting a logo on there.
Do you want to know why? It was his interview with Lewis Hamilton that Silverstone had just remembered, where Lewis Hamilton asked him about leaving Formula One, and Jensen turned around and said, "When you think it's time to leave, do one more season," which suggests to me that he still wishes he was in Formula One this year.
Or we did one season too many.
Let it go.
No, because
let
he
it go.
meant do another season. When you think you've had enough, do
Okay.
one more season.
Which I think is what Jensen did.
No, because I think that would have been the Williams season. I think that's the season he knocked back.
I
It's
don't
not
think
gonna
you're
happen. I know
convincing
it's not
the
gonna
rest of the
happen.
table.
But he's
Props to whoever it was that set up that Twitter account, the fake Red Bull Racing one this afternoon, and has started the campaign to get Rubens Barrichello in the Red Bull for next year. By the way, made a hashtag and everything.
I am going.
Hashtag RB Red Bull 2019.
All right.
I am just going to go and see if I can find any odds anywhere on Jensen Button being.
No.
And of course, as is now becoming sort of traditional in the silly season, we have to give the annual. It's the first one, but we should have done this for the last 3 years. The annual Nick De Vries Award for the driver who's on a team's junior programme that doesn't get mentioned in relation to a race seat for next year. And that award goes to Nick De Vries, who apparently has been at McLaren longer than Ron Dennis. He's on the young driver programme and still can't get in with a sniff of a
Wasn't
seat.
he the young Dutch driver when James Hunt won his world championship?
I mean, he's been at McLaren that long. I keep saying this. He was entombed.
He was in two
I'm
when he was
sorry.
about 12.
I'm going to have to question the name of that award because that award should be the Gary Paffett Award.
Yeah, the Gary Paffett Award. Yeah, absolutely.
Who was
Christ.
also on the McLaren Young Drivers
Wait a
programme
second.
until he was 33.
Yeah, exactly. Gary Paffett could end up at Williams.
What?
Gary Paffett could end up at Williams.
As a test driver.
Yeah, he's tested for them in the past.
Yeah.
In his post McLaren days, he's driven a Williams. Gary Paffett.
Problem is, those motherfuckers need paid.
Right, what does it say next?
Maybe Mercedes will pass him on and just please, just take him away.
He's been littering up the building for
Yeah.
years.
Look, we fed him once, and then
Unfortunately, it was after midnight. Now look what he's turned into. Right, it says on here, quick look back at Buddha Test. Actually, with your handwriting, it actually says Buddha Tet.
Buddha test. Buddha test.
Is there an S there?
Of course there is, right there.
Oh, yeah, it's underneath the T. Buddha T $.
Yeah, that'll do.
Yeah. New track record for George Russell in a Mercedes.
Well, Giovinazzi got there first on the Saturday, what I'm talking about, on
Tuesday.
Tuesday. And then on the Wednesday, it was smashed, well, not really smashed, beaten by a tenth of a second by George Russell
In
and the
F1
Mercedes.
terms, a tenth of a second faster is smashed.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was impressive lap times from both drivers. Given that they are young drivers,
They're actual young drivers.
they both held the outright track record. Well, George Russell still does now hold the outright track record for the Hungaroring, which is amazing, really.
Yeah. I think we didn't really get to learn a great deal from the test. It was mainly, I mean, there's
Tyres was interesting.
Pirelli were doing
Yeah.
a lot of stuff there on new compounds.
Yeah, they
Did they-
had Toro Rosso running a second car.
Yeah.
Exclusively for their shenanigans. What else? We saw 2019 front wings.
We
saw
did.
some of those for the first time. Force India and Williams, I think.
oh, we saw the
particularly.
wings that are going to be on the 2019 show cars anyway.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
The first iteration of a
the
2019.
five element front wing as distinct from the what's been the most so far? It's been 13 elements.
I'm sure I've heard
Fuck
16
knows.
mentioned
Yeah.
in regards to Red Bull.
Oh yes, it was the new Red
When they
Red
had
Bull.
like steps on top of steps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which isn't allowed.
I
Not-
just
not-
hope
no.
that it doesn't have a negative effect with like car speed, like too negative effect.
Yeah, you don't want it to slow the cars down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we've just got out of this. Let's slow Formula One down.
Yeah, but if it's
No,
a
I
bigger
think-
front wing, you get more downforce, and you should be able to go technically.
It's going to be
What
bigger
these-
rear wing, isn't it? So
Yeah.
you get greater DRS effects.
Yeah.
But what these new front wings are doing is interfering with the air coming off the cars
Yeah,
less, and
yeah.
it's making it easier to follow.
Yeah.
They're going to give the same levels of grip and downforce and therefore the same amount of cornering speed. They're not going to affect drag in such a way as to slow the cars down. DRS is going to be greatly enhanced by the fact that the rear wing flap is going to be bigger
Yeah.
and you'll see more of a differential in there when it's open for
Because
DRS.
that's what we need is more DRS.
But a byproduct of the whole thing with the new wing designs is the air coming off the cars is going to be less turbulent for the cars behind.
Right.
So following will be easier, and passing under non-DRS areas
Well, that's
may
what we
well be
need.
made
I think
easier.
Yeah,
what's going to
it's-
happen is going to make passing under DRS too easy.
Yeah, probably.
But yeah, it's
'Cause it's
outwash,
pretty
isn't
easy
it?
now.
That's,
Yeah.
that's specifically being limited outwash, so you can't have disrupted air coming off the side of the car and
And
causing a
for the same reason, they've simplified the brake duct inlets.
Yes.
Because at the moment the brake duct air inlets, I probably need confirmation from Scarbs on this, who will have to get back on the show at some point. The brake duct inlets take some of the dirty air and work better in the turbulent air to cool the brakes. So by simplifying those, they're having to use a smoother airflow to get in to cool the brakes down. Which also means that the outwash at the side and the wake isn't going to be as strong. And again, there's not going to be the negative pressure area behind that pulls the car too far forward and therefore ruins the tyres and stops you following closely.
Yeah, I hope so. I don't. Well, it's going to have to be suck it and see thing, isn't it?
It does mean another change to brakes as well, but we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens.
It'll be interesting to see how this works out, because I think we're gonna see these wings again at Abu Dhabi at the post-season test, when the young drivers like Gary Paffett and Ollie Rowland run the cars, and I think Kubica is running at the end of season test as well. So at the end of season, young drivers test, average age 28.
Yeah. Do you think we'll see more crashes at first?
I think you always
Possibly.
do, don't you, with new Aero Formula
It's
drivers
just
trying
the
out how
facts.
close they can get and things.
Well, remember when they binned off? I can't remember the bloody name of it now. Traction control. That was it.
Yeah.
And Felipe Massa could
He
not
was
keep the
shocking,
car on the
wasn't
road
he?
for the
Yeah.
first 4 races. And he wasn't just straight lining corners, he was going to the shops.
Yeah. See, what I was thinking was, like, you look at F2 at the minute, and some of the racing in F2 is so close, you know, when they're following each other. And I can't help but think if that was in Formula 1 at the minute, they'd be touching each other, because it's like you race wheel to get to Formula 1, and then as soon as you get to Formula 1, you essentially stop racing. You
It's
just
much more
follow.
about setting
Yeah,
up
yeah.
the
Yeah, you-
car and
Yeah,
strategy.
you've got to wait 3 seconds behind the next car, and if they make a mistake, then you can go for
so,
it.
Yeah.
Like, I
And
can't.
this stupid thing like you've got to have a 1.6 delta or a lap
Yeah.
over the car in front to get anywhere near close enough to pass them. It's like, oh, you don't
Yeah.
need this.
Can't I just put my foot down and try and go faster than the car in front? And if I do that, I'll cross the line before he does, and I'll score more points.
To
Yeah,
be
exactly.
fair, Formula 1's never been that, I don't think.
No, but I can dream.
Yeah.
That's how I play it when I'm on the PlayStation.
Well, that's true. Yeah.
You know, my aim when I'm playing a racing
Is to get
game
in
on a
front of the other
console
cars.
is to get in front of the car that's in front of me, right up to the point where it says number 1 next to my name and I'm in the lead, and then make sure I go over the finishing line before anyone else does.
I had an interesting thing on Project Cars 2 today that I've never seen on like a racing game before.
You played an online game and nobody was on there deliberately to crash into anyone. You had a completely clean race with no griefers.
Don't be so fucking stupid.
I'm going back to this one. I can dream.
I fucked my setup on a race, and I fucked my setup to the point where I took the car out of the garage and the tyres wouldn't heat up. I couldn't get the tyres switched on with the setup. I've never had that in a racing game before. It was really interesting.
Fair enough. Yeah.
As games get more realistic, I'd like to see more things than that.
Yeah.
And you have to be completely immersed in them.
Yeah.
I took part in an online game. I think it was F1 2013. I'm sure I've mentioned this on the podcast before, and thought this would be fun. I think it was actually at the Hungaroring as well, and I think I was started somewhere in the middle of the pack. Deliberately made a really bad start and went off onto the grass and just sort of sat there for a little bit, and then just let everyone pass me, and then just sort of cruise into the first corner with like one guy behind me who had the same idea, and everyone had crashed.
Talking of this, Sauber and Mercedes have both launched their official esports teams this week.
I see that, yeah.
Sauber was kind of an unfortunate bit of timing because they put the tweet out saying big news about our esports team coming soon, right in the middle of the Danny Ricciardo stories coming out
They
on Friday.
teased it the day before, didn't they? They said
Yeah.
on the Thursday, oh, we'll have big news at, was it 3 p.m. Central?
Yeah.
Which is 2 o'clock our time. And then, lunchtime, Daniel Ricciardo's going to Renault. No one cares about your team. so-
have esports.
Yay.
I love computer games. I think esports are dumb.
I'm not sold.
No.
I'm not really into it.
I think racing's the closest to sport you can get in esports. Competitive online real-time strategy games, I just do not get.
I watched the esports F1 final last year at Abu Dhabi, where the young lads going for the championship. One of them was driving a Toro Rosso.
Yeah.
Which just goes to show how unrealistic it
Yeah.
is. Yeah.
Do you know what really annoyed me about esports this weekend just gone, actually? The fact that the FIFA Esports World Cup final was being shown on 3 separate channels and you couldn't get live coverage of British Formula 3.
That's
Yeah.
pretty
Yeah,
bad.
it's pretty poor. Pretty poor.
I'm stepping down off my soapbox now. I think that's probably covered everything vaguely relatively newsy.
Yeah.
Now, before we do Total Shunt,
Should we look at Formula League before that as well?
we'll look at Formula E and Total Shunt. However, we've still got interviews with Robert Kubica and George Russell.
Yes, we
that
do.
Our friends from UK Motor Talk very kindly got for us at Goodwood the
Might
other
as well
week.
do this, seeing as how they'll both be driving Williams next year.
As I was going to say, as we've been talking about both of them fairly heavily tonight, I reckon it'd probably be a good idea to actually play them on this show.
Let's hear from them.
So let's hear from them now.
We're sat in the Martini Drivers Garden with George Russell, who's just been up the hill, come back down again, and is hopefully enjoying a few moments of well-deserved rest. Is this your first time at Goodwood?
Yeah, first ever time, surprisingly. Unbelievable event and experience here. So many fans. So glad to put on a show for the people.
And it must be quite something just coming out here and then everyone recognising you and everyone wanting a selfie and wanting a signature. And how is that?
No, it's great, especially being British. Obviously, a few more people know me than at the usual race circuit. So, no, fantastic experience. And no, like I say, it's great that there's so many fans here, and it's good to give something back to these people.
And is the hill as tough as it looks? It looks really tight as you get up the top if you're pacing it up there.
Yeah, definitely. I did go quite fast to start with, and it kind of caught me by surprise at how tight and bumpy the circuit was. So no, it's definitely quite tight through there. But I mean, we've done Monaco this year. I've raced at Macau, so I'm used to kind of street circuits and tight walls.
Just not maybe necessarily the flints as you go through and the hay bales on the other side.
A quick rattle through your career so far. It's fairly easy. I mentioned the word champion a hell of a lot. MSA Karting, British Open champion, Super 1 British champion, Formula Kart Stars British champion, FIA European CIK champion. You've won races in Formula Renault. You're the Formula 4 champion, the GP3 champion, and currently leading the standings in Formula 2. And just to keep you busy as well, you're the test and reserve driver for Mercedes AMG Petronas. So life's pretty good right now, isn't it?
Yeah, life is definitely pretty good. I think obviously a lot of hard work to get me to the position I am today. Starting all the way back off in karting and working my way up through the ranks, and then almost starting from afresh again, moving into single seaters, and once again trying to work my way up through the ranks. And thankfully, I got the opportunity with Mercedes.
You touched on there about the hard work. We were chatting to a touring car driver earlier who was telling us about some of his worst days, some of his most testing days whilst driving cars. On the outside, he's won championships and he's had podiums and poles and fastest laps and wins, etc. So from the outside, again, your career would seem champion, win, champion, win. Yeah, it's easy.
Yeah, so like you say, obviously, just watching from the outside, it's very easy just to see drivers going out there, being successful, winning races, putting it on pole, but obviously there's a lot of hard work going in. One, training to be a racing driver, it's not quite as physically as easy as people first believe. Also spending time with the team, understanding what makes the car go quick, putting in the hard work from that side of things just to try and hit the ground running when you arrive to a racetrack. And then once again, when you got to, I think the more time working hard with the team to understand the setup changes you need to do to maximise that at a race weekend. And that's just kind of purely racing terms. Then there's a huge amount of sacrifice you do as a person. I think the typical 20-year-old would be, out drinking, partying most weekends, and I don't do any of that. And I don't miss it, or I've never even really done it. But it doesn't. It's not really something I feel like I want. If I want to be a Formula 1 driver, and I can't be messing about with doing that. So it's kind of all or nothing, and that's the sort of attitude I'm taking.
So that leads us on nicely, as I've touched on, leading the Formula 2 standings and dovetailing that with Formula 1 duties. Is Formula 1 the aim for next year or the year after? Or
I think it's the aim for next year. I think realistically there's no reason why we couldn't have a race seat next year. I think obviously leading the Formula 2 championship at the moment, everyone's seen what Charles Leclerc has been doing in Formula 1 this year, and just goes to show what sort of level Formula 2 is really. And if you can win in that, I think you are deservingly, especially in your rookie year, I think you're definitely deserving of a Formula 1 seat.
And of course you've raced against Charles on many occasions and finished in front of him on many occasions, so does that give you a confidence boost, a self-belief boost? Or
I obviously believe in myself a lot. I think since racing Charles we had many good battles, but I think we've both come a long way since then. That was back in the karting days, Formula Renault days, Formula 3 days. We've raced each other a number of times, but like I say, I know he's a very good driver. I believe in myself, but I think we've both progressed leaps and bounds since.
And as Mike had touched on earlier, you're heading up the hill this weekend in the W07. The Formula 1 difference between speed and downforce grip, etc. But a major difference between Formula 1 and lots of lower formulas is the hybrid technology. From the Formula 1 running you've had so far, how is it coping with the hybrid systems and things like that, whilst being really quite busy worrying about braking and apex points?
To be honest, just worrying about the hybrid systems is not that much of a task. I think the cars are extremely complex at the moment, and you've got so many different settings on the steering wheel, and I think that's where you need to put your focus in to be able to make these switch changes naturally, because you can optimise corner by corner slightly more by maximising these switch settings. And in a normal junior category, all you've got to worry about is obviously driving quick, braking points, cornering, throttle. Obviously it's not quite as simple as that, but the fundamentals are that, whereas in Formula 1 you've got so many additional things to worry about, just to try and eke that last little bit out of the car, which in junior levels you don't have that possibility to do that.
And top of the F2 standings, as we've said, snapping at your heels is Lando Norris. Lewis Hamilton doing well. England, I think, had a decent World Cup run. A fairly good time to be British. Does that give you a sense of pride? It's you and another Brit leading the way?
Yeah, I think it definitely gives me a bit of pride to be British, but I think many people have touched on the fact, obviously myself and Lando being British, both junior drivers, but at the end of it, I kind of just treat him as another driver, really. He's another driver who I'm out there to try and beat. It makes no difference to me that he's a Brit, that he's another F1 junior or reserve driver. He's just another driver who I have to go out and beat. So, but no, being British, there's a lot of pride being British. Motorsport is pretty much a British industry. There's so many teams based in the UK, founded in the UK, and the prestige of motorsport in the UK is massive. So to be British is great.
So the battle with the Brits, you don't really care too much about the nationality of your opponent. Obviously, against you're up against some phenomenal talent, Albon, Markelov. Anyone in particular stand out to you as being somebody that you really enjoy racing, or your toughest opponent, or has that been in previous categories?
Cool. I think so far this season in Formula 2, I've not really had any wheel-to-wheel battles with anyone. I don't think for any of the drivers at the sharp end of the field, nobody's really had like a one-on-one battle or fight. There's no kind of standout driver for one another. I think probably Norris and Albon probably stand out for being the two most consistent drivers who are always there kind of with me. Obviously Albon's had a lot of poles and front row starts, and Norris is always there or thereabouts, so I think those two stand out. Each race weekend they're going to be there. So probably those two.
But being a tight and competitive series, you can have the odd driver springing a surprise. Jack Aitken's had some very good results and then some fair to middling results. So the threat can come from anywhere, really, can't it?
I think in this series you've got a good 15 drivers who all on their day are capable of winning races. I think the broadness of talent in Formula 2 this year is probably larger than it's ever been, in my opinion. I think there's always been great drivers in Formula 2, but I don't believe as many as there are this year. And like I said, I believe there's a lot of drivers who can all win on their day, which makes it difficult because to be consistently there, like you said, you have the odd driver on their day can be very quick and just throw something random into the mix. So as someone who's going for the championship, you've always got to be on it, and you can't slip up ever, because if you do, it might not only be a title rival goes ahead, but you might have someone else unexpected jump you as well.
Well, barring safety car issues earlier on in the season and an engine issue at Monaco, you seem in a rich run of form at the moment. It's just been a nice streak of wins. So is the aim obviously to keep that up?
Definitely, I think we've potentially could have had another win or two under our belt this year. It's not been, even though we're leading by 37 points and I think 60 to third, which sounds a huge margin, I think we potentially could have been even further ahead. I think obviously we had a safety car restart issue in Baku, which potentially cost me a solid 27 points for the win and fastest lap, and obviously Monaco, who knows what could have happened because we just got no track time. So like I say, it's been a scrappy year so far. I'm just hoping, and I believe that if we just have a smooth run of form moving on, we've definitely got the pace to win this thing.
Just a couple of really quick questions, real quick fire questions for you. If you had to take one car home with you here today, which would it be?
One car home? I saw the McLaren F1 GTR, I think it is, what won Le Mans in '97. I think that'd be a pretty cool one to drive.
Absolute beauty. And is there any one person that stands out to you as an absolute hero?
No.
Honest answer. It's been an absolute pleasure chatting with you. It really has. We could chat to you for hours and hours and hours, and you're going to do absolutely brilliant. Thank you so much indeed. Really, really appreciate it. Thank you. Thanks. We're sat outside in the Martini Garden here with Robert Kubica. Robert, justifiably, you have a reputation for being one of the friendliest guys in F1. It is an absolute pleasure to meet you. You are, I believe, the first Polish driver in F1. That surprises me and amazes me a bit, to be honest, because I have some Polish friends and they are absolutely car mad. I mean, you must have inspired a generation.
Yeah, I mean, about that I'm a most friendliest guy, I don't know. It's not... I should judge it, but regarding that I'm first Polish F1 driver, that's true. Nobody before achieved it, and Poles they like cars. We had a good history of rally drivers in the past, but racing drivers not as much. Honestly, there were a few drivers before me that they try some single-seater racing, but without big success. And but now we have quite a lot of young karting drivers which are doing very well. So it looks like motorsport in Poland is growing up. It is, as you know, not the cheapest sport in this planet, and probably this is quite a big limitation for our country. But also we don't have many circuits. We don't have a lot of teams, a lot of knowledge about motorsport. So we are a young country in this sport, but as I said, young kids, karting drivers which are racing in Europe, they are doing very well. So hopefully they will grow up in better way than I did.
So you've obviously had a very varied career so far, and you mentioned there are a couple of different disciplines, karting, rallying, as well as single-seaters, and the fact that you've inspired, or you appear to have inspired, a range of younger drivers. Where did your inspiration for racing, how did you fall in love with cars?
Well, I started very young, when I was 5 years old. It was typical circumstances when you are a kid. We were having a walk on Sunday afternoon in city center of the town where I was born, in Krakow, and there was a small car with petrol engine, 2 gears, and I saw it, and we went into the shop, and the lady allowed me to get in, and I stayed in that car for 6 hours. So I didn't want to really jump out. So my parents for sure understood that I really like it, but you know. I got that car a few days later, and it started like this. I started spending every single moment with this car. Then afterwards I get the first kart when I was 6 years old, and I still started racing only when I was 10, because this was a minimum age in Poland to get a license. So 95 was my first season in karting in Poland, and I moved to international races in 98 when I was junior driver, and and then slowly get into Formula 1, which for sure it's not an easy task, but I think nobody was thinking that anyone from Poland could achieve it. Actually, when we were going to trying to get some money and budget for single seaters, people were laughing that we were talking that potentially we might have a chance to get into the top of. We were not talking about Formula One, but the top level of motorsport categories, because motorsport is yes, Formula One is the highest level and highest category, but there are different professional motorsport categories in the world.
You mentioned your karting there. You karted against Rosberg and Hamilton, and Hamilton actually referred to you as sort of his greatest adversary in karting. I just wondered who's been your fiercest competitor, and also who's inspired you most, not necessarily just through your karting, but through your driving career.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm from same age as Luis, as Nico, so actually we were racing since we were kids, since '98 together. I think I had one of my best periods or years of my career was when I was karting 98, 99 in Italy, and in European Championship I really won a lot of races, and I was kind of the guy to beat at that stage. Then our careers did move a bit differently. I switched to different single seaters, but then we met again. I was a Luis teammate in 2004 in Manor, in Macau. Macau is a single race, which is kind of world championship, one single event. Everybody from strongest drivers from each national championship going to Macau, and we were teammates there with Luis. And then we met all of us in Formula One, Nico, myself, and Luis. So who was the most difficult one to race with? I think, yeah, Luis was the one who was always nice to battle, but it was not easy battle, and who was my inspiration, honestly. I didn't have one. When I was karting, I had inspiration of Daniel Rossi, who was many times world champion. He was also the guy who helped me to get an official and factory drive in CRG, which is one of the biggest kart manufacturers. Without them, I would probably not be here, because when I started racing in '98 in international area, we didn't have a budget to do all season. So fortunately, I became the driver, and I was racing for free. So this had a big effect on my career.
Well, you seem to have an amazing ability to recover physically from certain accidents and get back up to speed. Obviously, the Andorra rally has been well documented, but that's not the first really severe injury you've had to yourself over the years, is it? I believe you broke your arm in the early noughties.
Well, yeah, but it was over 20 years ago, so I think it's not that I'm the one who is crashing and have ability to recover. I have, as most probably everybody who suffer accident, some injuries. Actually, the accident you mentioned was a road car accident, so nothing to do with the sport. I was a passenger in a road car, so it really. But it had a few small effect on my career because I have to skip first 3 events of Formula 3 Euro Series in 2003. But actually, when I got back in the first race of my Formula 3 career, on my first event, I won my first race. So a debut race, I won it. So yeah, but it's not a way of winning races that you have to hurt yourself before and then jump in. Yeah, and unfortunately, yeah, as probably everybody knows, I suffered a big accident in a rally in 2011.
What's impressive is how dedicated you are and how quickly you can get back to form, because there's no question that you worked really hard at it. You've always worked really hard, but you've always managed to come back and at that high level. To us, it seems like almost straight away, and that doesn't come easily. You know, if it happened to any of us, we could never recover anywhere near that quickly. And so it's just deeply impressive. Yeah.
You never know. It's you know, when I think our body and especially our brain has a huge potential, and I think you are transforming yourself into a warrior when something is going on. and something went wrong. And the last 6 years were not easy, but a passion for this sport and a general motorsport passion, which I had since I'm a kid, helped me to don't give up and to try to get back to F1 paddock.
Fantastic. Just a slight change in pace here. But if I said to you now, you pick any car you like, we'll fly you to wherever you want to go tomorrow, what would it be and where would you go?
Yeah, probably it would be F1 car, and I would go for a next race.
That is a fantastic answer. What a fantastic answer. Okay then, so it's a different question for you. If I said to you, any of the cars here,
Yeah.
taking up the hill now, what would it be?
I think I will take a rally car. I heard there is a very nice rally stage, but just for that, I'm not missing rallies at all. But yeah, I think current WRC cars are really amazing to drive. So yeah, I would like to have a go.
Any other form of motorsport interest you? Obviously, you've done rallying, single-seater, karting, etc. I think a bit of Formula E and things like that. Have you thought about another series to have a look at, maybe longer term? It's 60-year anniversary of the British touring cars this year, so does British touring cars appeal to you? Maybe something like that?
I know very well British touring car, because actually there was the only motorsport races or race we could see in Polish television when I was young. So there was no way of watching Formula 1. And I remember one year there was one channel was showing the British Touring Car Championship. For example, it was I don't know if, but I think it was something around 98 or 97. But the championship was from 2 years before. So practically I was watching 98 in 98 the championship of 96. But yeah, I was a young karting driver, and actually I loved those races because they are real races. You know, I don't know how it is now, but I assume it's the same. Touring cars are once you have driven Formula 1, they are not as attractive, I would say, because performance of the car, once you try Formula 1, everything is slow. But racing in a touring car is really something which we lack in Formula 1, you know, wheel-to-wheel, possibilities for overtaking, and really a lot of action. So, but if I consider it, honestly, my main target was to come back to Formula 1, or let's say to understand if I'm able to come back, and I did it. So I hope to get a chance of a drive. If not, then maybe I will have to find something else to do. And one of the possibilities could be World Endurance Championship. So with LMP1 or something. I did a test with Ginetta in the beginning of the year, but it was getting too tight with all schedules, with amount of the days we are spending in the factory, on the races, simulator, marketing events, and additionally putting up full season in a different championship. It was really getting too busy, but who knows, you know. But the main target stays Formula 1, and yeah, we'll see later.
Well, we had a good catch up with Chris Smiley from the touring cars yesterday on the BTC Norlin team. So if you ever fancy going his car, I'll give him a buzz and you can have a go.
All right,
I'm sure
okay.
he'll let you.
Thank you.
I know you've got a lot to be catching up on, a lot to do today, and there's a load of fans waiting for you outside. So all remains to say thank you so much for talking to you, Dziękuję, thank you, and yeah, we'll look forward to seeing you progress in the future.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Thanks.
Thank you.
There we go. And as I say, I want to say a massive thank you to all the guys at UK Motor Talk for everything they've helped us with this season, especially getting those interviews. We've said it before, not making us walk from the entrance to the press centre at Silverstone, because it's longer than the circuit.
Yes. Thank you.
Shall we have a total shunt?
Let's do it.
Cool. Who's this one from?
Rod Kay.
He has been in touch before.
I think he's
Cool.
first time shunter.
Long time listener, first time shunter.
I started Formula 1 in 1976.
When's this from? Probably before the I was born rule.
No, 20th of June.
Oh.
I started Formula
He's a
1 in
rule breaker.
1976.
I was born isn't a rule; it's just a guideline.
It's something to live by. Okay.
Unlike my successful season, my 1977 season was fraught with retirements.
I think we might be looking at some kind of car, possibly.
I think,
again.
I think if we weren't born, then I think
Wolf,
it could be an
Formula
entity.
One.
Did Wolf really have a successful season?
Depends what you call success. Points, podium,
First Williams win? Yeah, possibly.
maybe.
We've had Wolf before.
We have.
I made an appearance in the 2013 film Rush.
Okay.
Not the rubbish prog band.
Oh, no, they did a couple of good albums.
No, they
No,
didn't.
they're songs. I'd like a guess, please.
I defy anyone to listen to 2112 and not get the munchies.
Wolf Formula One team, or should we go with?
Would they have been in Rush though?
Was it?
Well,
76
yeah,
was that
was
year,
the
wasn't it?
season, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Was that slightly too early for them?
possibly. Yeah.
See, this is the thing. I'm all right with the sport after I was born. I was born. No.
I'm all right with the sport after I started watching it.
I don't think we've got anything better than that at the moment.
No, we'll go with it then.
Yeah.
I had one race win in my career.
Wolf Williams, one race win.
Yeah.
In 1977, in the 1977 United States Grand Prix, I got the fastest lap but finished 16th.
It's not Hesketh, is it? They started earlier than that, didn't they? 75, 74.
Well, James Hunt used to drive
Yeah,
for
it was
Hesketh
them
before he went to
folding.
Williams. Williams? McLaren.
Although other teams were interested in me, following my success for the first season, I only raced for Tyrrell.
Oh.
So we are probably looking at a
So
driver
it's-
then.
It is a
Yeah.
driver.
Ronnie Peterson.
Did he only race for
Interesting.
he raced for Ferrari?
I'm
as well,
going to
didn't he?
help you out here by saying I would consider that a trick question.
All right.
Oh.
Trick questions aren't really a thing, are they? So I think you need a heads up there.
There are no such thing as trick questions, only trick answers. No, hang on, no. I only raced for Tyrrell. Oh,
So it could be someone who's been involved in another capacity.
I'd like a guess as well.
okay. Are you I can't remember the designation number, and after the Brabham fan car gate the other week, I'm going for are you the six-wheel Tyrrell?
Vanguard gates.
Which was
like that.
70. Jody Scheckter won the title in 79, didn't he? It was be 78 then, the two-wheeled. Six-wheeled.
The two-wheel
Two-wheeled.
Tyrrell.
With the window so you can see their pedals.
Yeah.
Weird little car.
Oh no, the window was so you could see the second set of front tyres.
Through the first lot.
Yeah, you looked over the cockpit to see the front two tyres, and then you had to look through the mirrors that were in the sort of front of the side pods at the front of the cockpit to see what you really would only describe as the middle tyres, even though they were just behind the front ones.
Someone was really stoned that day.
Yeah, they were. Tom Walkinshaw.
Is that a guess? We're locking it in as a guess.
It was a Harvey Postlethwaite car,
Harvey
wasn't
Postlethwaite,
it?
was it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, should we go for that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Are you the six-wheel Tyrrell? It started with a P, but I can't remember. And there was some. I'm sure it started with a
more
P. and
than
there was
one
some
race
numbers.
win, though.
Oh yeah, it did. Oh, did it?
There was only one race win was part of the clue. So.
Yeah.
One
No,
race win. So do you want to lock that in?
Yeah, but
Yeah, we'll go.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll go for it. We'll go for it. I'm sure it only won one.
During my career, I raced with Jody Scheckter and Ronnie Peterson.
Yeah, it'd be that car then.
I think.
Six-wheeled Tyrrell.
Yeah,
I had an interesting relationship with Goodyear.
because the
front
front
wheels
wheels
were
were
small,
smaller
yeah.
than everyone else's, so they had to make special tyres.
I'd say the interesting relationship was they needed more of them. I retired from racing in 1978.
Yep. Is that the last clue?
Yeah.
Are you the six-wheeled Tyrrell car?
Am I the six-wheel Tyrrell Cosworth P what?
You can't do this to me.
Can.
Right, I'm still claiming this as a win, just
Yeah.
like Dan won the Brabham fan car.
Well, you can claim it all you want. The Quizmaster says no.
The Quizmasters are
I agree. Absolutely.
unbeatable.
Unapologetic shunt is what.
I've gone as far as I can go, so I'm all right
The
with that.
six-wheeled Tyrrell Cosworth P. Oh, come on. I
Come
got
on,
the
Paul.
P.
Come on, you've got it. Come on.
God. 150.
2 numbers.
148?
No, 2
Oh,
numbers.
it's 2 numbers. I thought you were saying 2 numbers out. P. Oh, God. 35? 4? 6?
I am the Tyrrell Cosworth P34.
I'm having that. I'm sorry. I'm having
Close
that.
enough.
I'm having that one. That was a great one, Rod. Made more especially great by the fact that we got it.
Not doing very well in the teams.
Six-wheel Tyrrell, we got that on the second guess, didn't we?
Yeah.
That was that was good.
Yeah, the only
Surprised it only won one race, though.
the only six-wheel car to be legally allowed to race, because Williams made a six-wheel car with 4 wheels at the back that kept getting black flagged.
Oh, right.
And that's why the rules got changed to you can only have 2 driving wheels. And then the FIA went, hang on, why don't we just say you can only have 4 wheels and 2 of them can be driven?
And yet no one's made a front-wheel drive Formula One car.
Because it's in the regulations that it must be the rear wheels, it must be rear-wheel drive.
Ah, there you go.
So the FIA now are basically fighting the teams to close any loopholes that possibly may turn up. Because certain teams, Ferrari, are very good at looking at the rulebook and going, well, it doesn't say that you can't put a jet engine in the back.
Yeah.
Well, we've had that this year with the mirrors on the Halo.
Yeah.
They're
there's no-
banned.
Yeah.
Oh, no, they're not. Oh, yes, they are.
The
oh,
legal.
no, they're not.
The legal.
Yeah,
We'll run them this race. They'll be banned from next week.
But we've already designed the car. We have to race them for at least 3 more races. That's not how R&D works. Give us a chance.
So if you want to send in a total shunt, how would you go about it, Lee?
You can tweet me in a private message at a total shunt.
That sounds easy enough to do. Right, a Formula Lee reminder. We are doing Canada this week.
All of them.
All of Canada.
Wow.
Well, specifically the circuit, the Gilles Villeneuve.
Right, okay.
And we are doing it in...
I forgot what we do. McLaren, Alonso's McLaren?
It was Alonso.
Hamilton McLaren.
It was the 2000... What was it? 6?
Yeah.
2006.
2008 McLaren.
2008
That was it.
McLaren.
Hamilton's.
The MP423. There you go. I know that one.
Yeah.
You have until next Monday to get that in, and the date next Monday, I don't have a calendar in front of me, will be the 13th.
Yeah.
Would I be right in thinking?
Yes, it will be.
At 7 o'clock UK time, 2 o'clock Eastern. You can send those in either via email, 3legs4wheels@gmail.com. You can send them on a Facebook private message to the group. If you look at facebook.com/3legs4wheels, you can send them there. Or you can send them on a Twitter private message to @3legs4wheels. Follow us on Twitter as well. If you're on PS4, then send me a friend request to Pabstar, and then I'll be able to see your times on the...
And a real name request
And
as
a real
well.
name request as well, and I'll be able to see your times and who you are on the leaderboard. That covers that, doesn't it?
It does, I think.
They are also the ways of getting in touch, but if you want to get hold of us individually, you can tweet us at
Flood21.
At Sean Cowper.
At a total shunt.
and at Pablo100.
And Dan is at Dan Dankleton.
Yes. What country is he in at the minute?
Ooh, we don't know.
Whichever one needs help.
Just
That narrows it down.
just keep watching the news. You'll
Yeah.
soon find out.
We'll see if he turns up to collect this. I'm going to have to check now if it is a suit or not in this suit hanger that
I've
he's
given
given
you
me.
the paranoia
I'm
now.
very, very worried what we are holding in our wardrobe.
It is a suit, but there's still
It
someone in
looks
it.
right to be a suit. Whether it's like the Ant-Man suit or something, I don't know.
Is there any easy way to check for Kevlar?
Dan Man suit.
It's all black and it's got a balaclava. I'm scared. We'll be back next week. Sean, you'll be joining us again next week.
Yes, apparently so.
Side effects permitting, I'll be here as well. And I don't know what we're going to have next week.
Well, let's see what breaks between now and then.
I was going to say there's bound to be some news.
Let's worry about that next week.
Yeah, we would like to thank Tuesday for being its usual self, but we outfoxed you this week and actually managed to record on a Tuesday night.
Which means all the news next week will break on Tuesday or Wednesday.
It'll probably be Wednesday, but we're recording Monday next week, as far as I know.
Yes.
Right, we'll see you then.
We will
Righto.
indeed.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.